They say blood is thicker than water, but in the arms trade business, blood is just another commodity. It's leverage, it's insurance, it's the currency that buys silence when cash runs dry. For 20-year-old Sera Merrick, blood had never been her own. It belonged to her father, Victor Merrick, who had spent 2 decades reminding her that every breath she took was borrowed, every meal she ate was mercy, every moment she existed was a debt she could never repay. The Merrick Dynamics warehouse sat on the industrial edge of Brooklyn, where the East River met concrete and rust. It was 3 a.m. when the deal went down, the kind of hour when honest people slept and dishonest people made their fortunes. Sera stood on the metal catwalk 20 feet above the main floor, her hands gripping the cold railing. Below her, crates of stolen military hardware sat in neat rows, javelin missiles, fragmentation grenades, enough firepower to start a small war or finish a large one. Her father paced between the crates, his Italian loafers clicking against the concrete. Victor Merrick was 55 years old with silver hair and a smile that had closed 1,000 deals. He wore a cashmere coat despite the summer heat. Image was everything in his world, image and fear. The buyers stood across from him, 3 men in tactical gear with faces like carved stone. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The duffel bags at their feet did the talking. $12 million in cash. Payment for weapons that would disappear into conflicts Victor would never see, and casualties he would never count. Sera knew her role. She'd played it 100 times before. Human insurance policy, living collateral. If the deal went south, if bullets started flying, the buyers wouldn't shoot. Not with the boss's daughter in the crossfire. Victor had explained it to her when she was 12, the first time he'd positioned her on a catwalk during a transaction. It's not about you being brave, sweetheart. It's about you being visible. They won't risk killing you. That makes everyone more honest. She had learned not to argue, not to question, not to exist beyond the space he carved out for her. Invisible until needed, silent until spoken to. A ghost who materialized only when her presence served his purpose. The deal was almost done. Victor's hand moved toward the lead buyer to shake on it. That's when the lights died. Every bulb in the warehouse cut out simultaneously, plunging the space into absolute darkness. Sera's breath caught. This wasn't supposed to happen. Deals like this were choreographed down to the second. No surprises, no deviations. Then came the sound, the distinctive metallic click of weapons being raised, but not from the buyers, from everywhere else. Flashlights blazed to life, blinding white beams cutting through the dark. They came from the catwalks, from behind the crates, from the office doorways. At least a dozen armed figures materialized from shadows that shouldn't have hidden anyone. They wore black tactical gear, body armor, helmets with night vision goggles flipped up. Professional, military, not the kind of people you negotiated with. A flashbang grenade detonated near the buyers. The explosion was deafening even from 20 feet up. Sera flinched, pressing herself against the railing. White lights seared through her vision. The buyers scattered, reaching for weapons they'd never draw. Suppressing fire cracked through the air, bullets sparking off concrete and metal, not random spray. Controlled bursts designed to pin targets without killing them. Victor dove behind a crate, screaming something Sera couldn't hear over the ringing in her ears. The tactical team moved with mechanical precision. Hand signals, overlapping fields of fire, advancing in pairs while others provided cover. This wasn't a robbery. This was a military operation. Within 90 seconds, it was over. The buyers were face down on the floor, zip-tied and disarmed. Victor was hauled from behind his crate by 2 operators, his cashmere coat torn at the shoulder. He struggled, still trying to project authority even with a rifle barrel pressed against his spine. The team leader stepped forward. Even in tactical gear, he stood out. Taller than the others by several inches, broader through the shoulders in a way that spoke of raw power barely contained. He moved with the economy of motion that came from 1,000 combat insertions. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Every step deliberate and predatory. He pulled off his helmet, and Sera's world tilted. Marcus Kade was 38 years old. His face was all hard angles and old scars, a jaw that looked like it had been broken and reset without anesthesia. Dark hair cut military short, eyes the color of storm clouds over deep water, gray shifting to silver in the flashlight beams. But it was the presence that hit her like a physical force, an aura of controlled violence that made the air around him feel compressed, dangerous. Sera had been around werewolves her entire life, had learned to recognize the subtle signs of barely leashed power. But this was different. This was an alpha. Not just any alpha. An alpha king. The kind of dominant male that other alphas submitted to instinctively. The kind that could command a room with nothing but his presence. His gaze swept the warehouse, cataloging exits and threats with the detachment of a predator analyzing terrain. Then those storm gray eyes found her on the catwalk. They locked onto her with the weight of a rifle scope. For 5 seconds that stretched into eternity, Marcus Kade stared at the invisible girl who had spent 20 years learning how to disappear. Sera couldn't move, couldn't breathe. His eyes didn't just see her, they saw through her, stripped away every defense, every carefully constructed wall, every survival mechanism she'd built to make herself unnoticeable. Something shifted in his expression. His nostrils flared slightly, catching her scent even from 20 feet away and through the acrid smell of gunpowder. His pupils dilated, the gray of his eyes bleeding darker. His entire body went still in the way predators do when they've located prey. Or a mate. No, that was impossible. Sera had never shifted, had no wolf, had been told repeatedly she was a genetic dead end. Alphas didn't react to runts, didn't see them as anything but defective. But Marcus Kade was staring at her like she was the only person in the warehouse. Below, Victor was trying to negotiate. His voice carried the practiced confidence of a man who believed money could buy anything, including his way out of a tactical breach. You have to understand, this is just a misunderstanding. Whatever you think you know, we can work this out. I have resources, connections. Name your price. Marcus Kade turned his attention to Victor with the slow deliberation of a man deciding which tool to use for an execution. When he spoke, his voice was a deep rumble that vibrated through Sera's chest even from a distance. An alpha's voice, one that commanded obedience whether you wanted to give it or not. You stole $12 million in weapons from my convoy. You sold intel to insurgents that got 6 of my men killed in Kandahar. The names were Corporal James Rivera, Sergeant Michael Chen, Private First Class David Okoye, Staff Sergeant Rachel Kimura, Specialist Marcus Webb, and Lieutenant Sarah Brennan. Each name was delivered like a bullet. Precise, lethal, final. He took a step closer to Victor. The older man tried to step back but hit the operator still holding him. Those were my people, Merrick. My pack, my responsibility, my brothers and sisters. You put profit margins over their lives. So here's what's going to happen. You have 30 seconds to give me one reason I shouldn't let my demo specialist wire this building and turn you into a crater. Victor's face went pale. Sera had never seen him scared before. Not like this. Not with the kind of fear that came from facing someone who didn't bluff. Facing an alpha who had just had his pack threatened. Wait. I can make this right. Assets. I have assets. Cash, properties, offshore accounts. Just name the number. Marcus shook his head slowly. The gesture was almost pitiful. You still think this is about money. My men died because of your greed. Their families buried empty caskets because the IEDs didn't leave enough to send home. Money doesn't fix that. He pulled out a tactical knife, the blade catching the flashlight beams. Victor flinched, but Marcus just used it to cut open one of the duffel bags. Cash spilled onto the floor. He didn't look at it. I don't want your money, Merrick. I want justice. But I'm a practical man. So here's the deal. I take my weapons back. I take your client list. And you disappear. Mexico, South America, somewhere I never have to see your face again. You contact anyone in your network. You try to rebuild. You so much as sneeze in my direction, and I will burn your entire operation to ash and mail you the remains. Victor nodded frantically. Yes, whatever you want. Just let me go. I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. Marcus studied him for a long moment. Then his eyes flicked back up to the catwalk. To Sera. She felt the weight of that gaze like a physical touch, like he could reach across 20 feet and wrap his hand around her throat. Not violently, possessively. What about the girl? Victor followed his line of sight. For the first time since the breach, he seemed to remember his daughter existed. His face calculated quickly, running through options with the speed of a man used to turning losses into profits. The girl, Sera. She's defective. No use to anyone, really. I kept her around out of charity more than anything. Marcus's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the warehouse dropped 10 degrees. Every operator in the room tensed. They recognized the shift in their alpha, the dangerous edge that came before violence. Define defective. Victor waved a dismissive hand, warming to his pitch now that he saw an angle. No wolf. 20 years old and she's never shifted. Not once. Genetic dead end. The bloodline stops with her. She can't even sense other wolves most of the time. Barely worth the food I've fed her. Useless for breeding, useless for pack politics, just takes up space. On the catwalk, Sera's fingers tightened on the railing until her knuckles went white. She'd heard these words before, hundreds of times, but hearing them delivered as a sales pitch to a stranger felt different. It felt like being erased in real time. Marcus took a step toward Victor, then another. He moved with the deliberate patience of a man who had tortured information from enemy combatants and knew exactly how to apply pressure. When he spoke, his voice had dropped to a register that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to hindbrain survival instincts. She's shaking. Victor glanced up again, barely looking at his daughter. Fear response. She's always been weak. Jumpy. I tried to train it out of her, but some things you can't fix. Like I said, defective. Marcus stopped 3 feet from Victor, close enough that the human had to crane his neck to maintain eye contact, close enough that every breath Victor took was filled with the scent of a predator that could tear him apart without breaking a sweat. You're her father. Biologically, yes. But in terms of value, she's a liability. I've been trying to figure out what to do with her for years. Can't marry her off, no pack would take a runt. Can't put her to work, she's too fragile for real labor. She's just there, taking up space. Something crystallized in Marcus's expression. A decision made with the finality of a rifle bolt slamming home. He turned to one of his operators, a compact man with tactical gloves and the bearing of someone who ran intelligence. Bishop, take a blood sample from the girl, full genetic panel. I want to know what we're looking at. The operator moved to comply, pulling out a field testing kit and heading for the stairs to the catwalk. Marcus's attention returned to Victor. How much do you owe me, Merrick? Victor blinked, confused by the shift. The weapons were valued at $12 million, but I can pay that back given time, or we could consider the weapons themselves as repayment. Wrong answer. You don't owe me for the weapons. You owe me for 6 lives. How much is a human life worth in your world? Victor's mouth opened and closed. There was no good answer to that question. Let me help you with the math, Marcus continued, his voice carrying the patience of a teacher explaining simple concepts to a slow student. The Marine Corps valued each of my people at roughly $400,000 in death benefits. Times 6. That's $2.4 million. But they were worth more than that to me. They were pack. So let's round up. $80 million. That's your debt. $80 million. Victor's face went from pale to gray. I don't have that kind of liquid capital. My assets are tied up in, you'd have to give me years to liquidate. I'm not giving you years. I'm not even giving you days. You have 60 seconds to offer me collateral worth $80 million or I execute you right here for crimes against my pack. Victor's eyes went wild, scanning the warehouse as if money might materialize from the concrete. He looked at the weapons crates, at the cash on the floor, at his own trembling hands. Then his gaze snapped back to the catwalk, to Sera. The girl, take the girl as collateral. Marcus didn't move, didn't react. His voice remained level. Explain. Victor spoke faster now, desperation lending energy to his pitch. She's Merrick bloodline, pure. Even if she can't shift, the genetics are there. In the werewolf world, that has value. Breeding potential if you can activate her wolf. Genetic studies. Whatever you want to use her for. She's young, healthy, trainable. You could, use her as a servant, a test subject, whatever. Just take her and we're square. The warehouse went very quiet. Even the operators had stopped moving. Sera felt her world narrow to a single point of terrible clarity. Her father was selling her, not as a daughter, as livestock, as a spare part to be harvested for whatever value could be extracted. Marcus looked up at the catwalk again, at Sera. This time she met his eyes. She didn't know what he saw there. Fear, probably. Resignation. 20 years of learning that her value was measured by her utility to others. But whatever Marcus saw, it made something in his expression harden into absolute certainty. The operator, Bishop, had reached the catwalk. He approached Sera with professional efficiency but not unkindness. "I need a blood sample. Won't hurt, just a finger prick." Sera extended her hand, watched her own blood well up on the small lancet prick, watched Bishop collect it in a vial and insert it into a handheld analyzer. The device hummed, processing, while Sera's fate was decided by genetic code she'd never asked for. After 30 seconds that felt like hours, Bishop checked the small screen. His eyebrows rose. He descended the stairs quickly, moving to Marcus's side, showed him the readout, spoke quietly enough that Sera couldn't hear. But she saw Marcus's reaction, saw his pupils dilate again, saw his jaw clench, saw his hand flex like he wanted to reach for something, or someone. When he turned back to Victor, his expression had shifted from professional coldness to something far more dangerous, something possessive. "Here's my counteroffer," Marcus said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Not a negotiation, a declaration. I take the girl, full custody. You sign a legal document transferring all parental rights, all claims, all connections. She becomes my responsibility. In exchange, I wipe your $80 million debt clean. You walk out of here alive. You disappear like I told you. And you never speak her name again. If I hear you've so much as thought about her, I will hunt you down and make you regret surviving this night." Victor nearly collapsed with relief. "Done. Yes, absolutely. Do you have the papers? I'll sign right now." Marcus pulled a folded document from his tactical vest. He'd come prepared. This wasn't improvisation. This was a planned extraction. Victor signed with shaking hands, not even reading the words, just desperate to escape with his life. Marcus countersigned with brutal efficiency, then handed the document to Bishop. "Get it notarized and filed within the hour. I want this legal and binding before he has time to sober up and reconsider." He looked up at Sera one more time. His voice carried clearly in the warehouse silence, pitched to reach her, but carrying the undertone of command that made disobedience physically difficult. "Come down here." It wasn't a request. It was an alpha's command. Sera's legs moved on autopilot, carrying her down the metal stairs before conscious thought caught up. Each step echoed. 20 feet had never felt so far. When she reached the floor, she stood at a distance, arms wrapped around herself defensively. She wore an oversized gray hoodie and jeans with holes in the knees. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup, no jewelry, nothing that would make her memorable or visible. Marcus walked toward her with the predatory grace of someone who had spent decades learning to move like a weapon. When he stopped in front of her, Sera had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. He was 6'4" to her 5'3". He towered over her, loomed in a way that should have been threatening, but instead felt strangely protective, like a mountain providing shelter from a storm. This close, his scent hit her like a wall, pine and smoke and something darker, something that made her hindbrain sit up and pay attention even though she had no wolf to recognize a mate, ozone and steel, and the particular musk that came from an alpha in his prime. "What's your name?" His voice was different now when directed at her, still deep, still carrying authority, but gentler, like he was aware of his own power and calibrating for her fragility. "Sera Merrick." "Not anymore," he corrected. "You signed away your rights to that name, Merrick. You're not keeping it." He turned to his team. "Pack her belongings, anything she wants to take, 5 minutes, then we're wheels up." Sera found her voice, though it came out small and frightened. "Where are we going?" "Home. My territory. You're under Kade Pack protection now. That means something. It means you're safe. It means you're valued, and it means anyone who tries to hurt you answers to me." One of the operators, a woman with kind eyes and a rifle slung across her back, approached Sera. She spoke gently, but with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. "I'm Rachel, second in command. What do you need to bring?" Sera looked around the warehouse, then up at the office where she'd lived for the past 6 months on a cot in the corner, a duffel bag with clothes, a book she'd stolen from a library, a photograph of her mother who had died when Sera was 8. That was everything. "Just, there's a bag upstairs, green duffel, that's all." Rachel nodded and dispatched an operator to retrieve it. Then she placed a hand on Sera's shoulder, the touch firm but not aggressive. "You're Pack now. That changes everything. Alpha doesn't take in strays without reason. You'll see." As they walked toward the exit, Sera glanced back once. Victor was being released from zip ties, already on his phone, already planning his escape. He didn't look at his daughter, didn't say goodbye, didn't acknowledge that he'd just sold the last piece of his humanity for the price of his own survival. Marcus fell into step beside Sera. He didn't touch her, but his presence was a physical barrier between her and the rest of the world, between her and any threat. When they stepped outside into the pre-dawn air, 3 black SUVs were waiting. Armored, windows tinted, government plates. "Get in, middle vehicle, back seat." Sera climbed into the back seat of the SUV. Rachel slid in beside her. Marcus took the front passenger seat, his broad shoulders filling the space, his head nearly touching the ceiling, even sitting down. The driver, Bishop, nodded to Marcus. "Where to, sir?" "Catskills, home base. Drive careful. I don't want her scared more than she already is." The convoy pulled away from the warehouse. Sera watched Brooklyn blur past the windows. She'd been born in this city, lived here her whole life. Now she was leaving with a man she didn't know, headed for a place she'd never been, to serve a purpose she couldn't imagine. She should have been terrified, should have been planning escape, but all she felt was a strange, hollow calm, like she'd been waiting her whole life for something to change, and now it finally had. Marcus turned in his seat to look at her. His expression was unreadable in the darkness of the vehicle, shadows cutting sharp lines across his face. "You're not a prisoner. I want that clear from the start. What your father did was unconscionable. No one should be traded like property. But I'm not returning you to him. I'm not selling you to anyone else. What happens next is your choice." Sera blinked. Choice was not a word in her vocabulary. "I don't understand." Marcus sighed, and for the first time she saw something like weariness cross his face. The Alpha King looked tired, burdened. "You will. For now, just know this. You're under Kade Pack protection. That means something very specific in the werewolf world. It means you're safe. It means you matter. And it means we're going to figure out what your father was hiding. Because Bishop's analysis showed something in your blood, something suppressed, something powerful. And I need to know what it is." "What do you mean?" He held up the small vial of her blood, still in the analyzer. "Your DNA doesn't match standard werewolf markers. There's something underneath, something deliberately suppressed. Chemical agents, probably combined with magical binding. Someone went to a lot of trouble to make sure you never shifted, to make sure you stayed weak and controllable. I've spent 15 years hunting down people who hurt the innocent. That's what I do. That's what my pack does. And right now, someone hurt you. We're going to fix it." Sera looked at the vial, then at Marcus. His eyes caught the passing streetlights, reflecting silver. Wolf eyes, alpha eyes. "Why? Why do you care what happens to me?" Marcus held her gaze. "Because 6 of my people died because I failed to protect them. I can't bring them back. But I can damn sure make certain no one else under my watch gets hurt. You're under my watch now. That makes you my responsibility." He paused, then added something that sounded like it cost him to admit. "And because when I caught your scent in that warehouse, my wolf recognized something. Something important. I don't know what yet, but I'm going to find out." The drive took 3 hours through darkness that gradually lightened to pre-dawn gray. Sera dozed fitfully, waking every time the vehicle changed speed or direction. Rachel stayed awake beside her, a quiet guardian presence. Once, Sera woke to find Marcus turned fully around in his seat, watching her with an intensity that should have been unnerving. But his expression wasn't predatory, it was protective, possessive in a way that had nothing to do with ownership and everything to do with territorial instinct. "Mine to protect," his eyes said, "mine to keep safe." When they finally arrived, dawn was breaking over the mountains. Kade Compound wasn't what Sera expected. She'd imagined something corporate, glass and steel. Instead, she saw a fortified facility built into the mountainside like a fortress from another era. High fences topped with sensors, guard towers manned by armed sentries, buildings that looked more military installation than residential compound. As they passed through the security checkpoint, she caught glimpses of armed patrols and surveillance equipment covering every angle of approach. "This is a military base," she said quietly. Marcus glanced back at her. "Private military company, Kade Security Contractors. We do protection work, recovery operations, risk assessment. Mostly we keep important people alive in places where local law enforcement is more of a suggestion than reality. But we also do pro bono work, rescue operations, taking down trafficking rings, hunting war criminals, like my father." Like your father, Marcus agreed. We'd been tracking him for 8 months. Tonight was the culmination of a long operation. You were unexpected, but not unwelcome. The convoy stopped in front of a 3-story building that looked like barracks. Marcus opened Sera's door himself, offering a hand to help her out. She hesitated, staring at that large hand with its calloused palm and scarred knuckles. A warrior's hand, an alpha's hand. She took it. His grip was firm but careful, like he was very aware of his own strength and calibrating for her fragility. The size difference was striking. His hand could completely engulf hers. When he pulled her from the vehicle, she stumbled slightly on unsteady legs. He caught her with his other hand on her waist, steadying her effortlessly. The touch sent electricity through her body. Sera gasped. Marcus's eyes flashed silver for a half-second, his wolf rising to the surface before he controlled it. Inside, he said, his voice rougher than before. His hand stayed on her lower back, guiding her. Possessive, protective, broadcasting to every pack member they passed that this female was under alpha protection. The building was surprisingly comfortable inside. Not luxury, but clean and functional. Military efficiency softened with touches of home. Marcus led her down a hallway to a door marked 207. This is yours. Private quarters. Bathroom, bed, desk, small sitting area. Cafeteria is on the first floor, open 24 hours. You're free to move around the compound, but don't leave the perimeter without an escort. Not because you're a prisoner. Because we have external threats, and I'd rather not have to explain to anyone why you're full of bullet holes. He pushed open the door. The room was small, but clean, and more space than Sera had ever had to herself. A single bed with military corners, a desk and chair by the window, a small sofa, a door leading to what she assumed was a bathroom, a window overlooking the mountain forest. It was more privacy than she'd had in her entire life. Get some rest. At 1400 hours, you have a medical appointment, full physical, blood work, genetic analysis. We need to know what we're dealing with, what was done to you. After that, I'll brief you on your situation and what happens next. Sera stepped into the room. It smelled like pine cleaner and fresh linen. She turned back to Marcus, words catching in her throat. Thank you. He studied her for a long moment. His eyes tracked over her face, cataloging details, memorizing. When he spoke, his voice carried warning and promise in equal measure. Don't thank me yet. You don't know what I'm asking of you. What are you asking? Marcus leaned against the doorframe. His tactical vest was dusty from the operation. Someone else's blood, not his own, spotted his sleeve. He looked like exactly what he was. A warrior who had just completed a mission and was already planning the next one. Your father sold intel that got 6 of my people killed. Those 6 were investigating a rogue unit called Wraith Syndicate. Former special operations soldiers who went private sector and stopped caring about rules of engagement or collateral damage. They're planning something big, something that could kill thousands. I need to stop them. And if your genetic markers are what I think they are, you might be the only person who can help me find them. Sera's heart hammered. How? I can't even shift. I'm useless. You're not useless. You're suppressed. There's a difference. We're going to unsuppress you, train you, turn you into an asset. But I won't force you. This is your choice. You can stay here as a civilian under protection, safe, hidden, or you can step up and help me finish what my people started. Help me get justice for them. Help me stop something that could kill thousands of innocents. He pushed off the doorframe, preparing to leave, but he stopped at the threshold, turned back. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made breathing difficult. And I need you to know something else. Something important. My wolf, he recognized your scent. Recognized you. That doesn't happen by accident. There's a reason you ended up in my pack. A reason I walked into that warehouse tonight. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in fate. And fate just put you in my territory. Under my protection. That matters more than you understand right now. But you will. You'll understand exactly what it means when an alpha claims protection over someone. With that cryptic statement, he left. The door closed quietly behind him. Sera stood in the center of her new room, surrounded by more space and safety than she'd ever known, and tried to process what had just happened. She'd been sold, freed, claimed, protected, all in the span of 3 hours. Her father was gone. Her old life was erased, and an alpha king had just told her that his wolf recognized her. That should have been impossible. Sera walked to the bed and sat down. The mattress was firm, the blanket was wool and smelled faintly of cedar, real and solid. She lay back and stared at the ceiling, trying to organize her thoughts, trying to understand why Marcus Kade, an alpha king with a private military company and 6 dead pack members to avenge, would waste time and resources on a defective runt, unless she wasn't defective, unless her father had lied about more than just her worth. Sleep claimed her before she could follow that thought to its conclusion. For the first time in 20 years, Sera Merrick fell asleep in a space that was hers, protected by an alpha whose scent lingered in the room like a promise, safe, for the moment, from a world that had spent 2 decades telling her she didn't matter. She woke to knocking at 13:45 hours. Rachel stood in the hallway wearing civilian clothes, jeans, and a fitted black t-shirt that showed the athletic build of someone who maintained combat fitness. Her hair was down now, falling in dark waves past her shoulders. Without the tactical gear, she looked younger, maybe 35. "Medical's this way. I'll walk you. Alpha wants the full workup before sunset." They moved through the compound in relative silence. Sera saw other people now, men and women in various states of training, some running obstacle courses with the determined focus of people pushing physical limits, others in a shooting range, the distant pop of gunfire echoing across the complex. Everyone moved with purpose. No wasted motion, no hesitation. A pack in motion. The medical building was sterile and efficient. A doctor, middle-aged with tired eyes and capable hands, ran through a battery of tests. Blood draws, physical examination checking for signs of abuse or malnutrition, reflex checks, heart rate and blood pressure. He was professional but not unkind. When he took the genetic sample, swabbing the inside of her cheek, he explained what he was looking for. Werewolf DNA has specific markers, chromosomal patterns that differ from baseline human genetics. Shifters show active expression of these genes. Non-shifters still carry them, just dormant. But your preliminary results show something else entirely. Suppression. Layered suppression. Chemical agents combined with what appears to be magical binding. Very sophisticated work. Very illegal work. Someone went to considerable trouble and expense to make sure you never shifted. Can you fix it? Maybe. Probably. We need full lab results first. Should have answers in 48 hours. But I'll warn you now, breaking magical bindings is painful. Dangerous. There's no gentle way to do it. Your wolf has been caged for 15 years, assuming the suppression was done when you were around 5 years old. When she gets out, she's going to be angry. Feral. You'll have to fight for control. It's not going to be easy. "I've never had anything easy," Sera said quietly. "I can handle hard." The doctor smiled slightly. "Alpha said you'd say something like that. He also said to tell you that when it's time to break the binding, he'll be there. His presence helps. Alphas stabilize new shifts, particularly strong alphas. And our alpha is, well, he's the strongest I've encountered in 40 years of pack medicine." When the exam finished, Rachel escorted Sera back outside. But instead of returning to quarters, she led her to a different building. This one was larger, with high ceilings and the smell of gun oil and sweat, a training facility. Marcus was waiting inside. He'd changed into black cargo pants and a fitted tactical shirt that did nothing to hide the powerful build underneath. Without the bulky armor, Sera could see the full scope of him. Broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist, arms that looked like they'd been carved from granite, hands that could break bones or offer gentleness with equal facility. He looked less like a corporate security contractor and more like exactly what he was, a weapon trained for close-quarters violence, an alpha king in his prime. "How was medical?" he asked, his voice carrying easily across the space. "Thorough. They took a lot of blood." "Good. We need answers before we proceed." He gestured to the mats in the center of the room. "But we're not waiting for results to start your training. If you're going to work with this pack, you need baseline competency. Self-defense, situational awareness, basic marksmanship. I'm not expecting you to become a special operator in 2 days, but I am expecting you to not be a complete liability if things go sideways." Sera swallowed hard. She'd never been trained in anything physical, had spent her life avoiding conflict. "Okay." Marcus gestured to the mats. "We start with hand-to-hand combat. Most people think fighting is about strength, size, aggression. It's not. It's about leverage, timing, and commitment. A 120-pound woman can drop a 200-pound man if she knows where to strike and doesn't hesitate. I'm going to teach you how not to hesitate. He stepped onto the mat. Sera followed, her bare feet finding purchase on the foam surface. Come at me. What? You heard me. Throw a punch. Try to hit me. Don't worry about hurting me. You won't. But you need to learn what it feels like to commit to violence, to decide to hurt someone and follow through. Sera had never thrown a punch in her life. She made a fist, thumb tucked inside her fingers the way she'd seen in movies, and swung awkwardly. Marcus caught her wrist mid-swing effortlessly, not hard, just firm. He turned her hand over, examining her grip with the critical eye of an expert. Thumb outside. Inside, you'll break it on impact. Power comes from rotation. Hips drive the punch, not just your arm. Like this. He demonstrated with the other hand, showing her the proper mechanics in slow motion. Now you try. Again. They drilled for an hour. Proper stance. How to throw a punch without breaking her hand. How to block an incoming strike. How to create distance when grabbed. Marcus was patient but relentless. Every mistake was corrected immediately. Every improvement acknowledged with a brief nod. By the end, Sera was sweating despite the cool air conditioning. But she'd landed 3 clean hits on the pad Marcus held. Not hard, not fast, but technically correct. Real strikes that would hurt if delivered to an actual target. Better, Marcus said, lowering the pad. You're not flinching anymore. That's progress. Fear makes you freeze. We're training out the freeze response. Teaching you that when threat comes, you act. You don't think. You don't hesitate. You move. Rachel appeared with water bottles. Sera drank gratefully, her muscles already starting to protest the unfamiliar exercise. Tomorrow we add weapons retention and ground fighting, Rachel said, her tone matter-of-fact. Then we move to the range. You ever fire a gun? No. You will. Alpha wants you armed and capable within 72 hours. We don't have time for a leisurely training schedule. Over the next 48 hours, Sera learned more about violence than she'd absorbed in 20 years of trying to stay invisible. She learned that her body, small and seemingly weak, could be a weapon if she knew how to use it. She learned that fear could be managed, channeled, used as fuel instead of paralysis. She learned that Marcus Kade was a hard teacher, but not a cruel one. He pushed her past comfort, but never past breaking, never beyond what she could actually handle. She also learned that having his attention was intoxicating. Every time he corrected her form, his hands on her body were firm but careful. Every time he demonstrated a technique, moving with the fluid grace of a predator, she found herself watching with more than just academic interest. And every time she succeeded, landing a strike or executing a move correctly, the approval in his eyes sent warmth flooding through her chest that had nothing to do with the exercise. On the 3rd day, Bishop found them in the training facility. His expression was serious as he approached with a tablet. Results are back, Alpha. You need to see this. They moved to Marcus's office, a sparse room with a desk, filing cabinets, and a wall of commendations and photos, men and women in uniform, some smiling, some serious, all of them warriors, all of them Marcus's pack. Bishop pulled up a genetic analysis on the tablet. Sera didn't understand most of it, but she understood Marcus's reaction, saw his jaw tighten, saw his eyes go cold, saw his hand flex like he wanted to reach for someone, or wrap around someone's throat. Reaper gene, Bishop nodded. Dormant but present. Suppressed using a combination of chemical agents and magical binding, just like the doctor suspected. Someone did this when she was approximately 5 years old. Very sophisticated, very illegal, very deliberate. Marcus looked at Sera, his gray eyes intense. Do you know what a Reaper is? She shook her head. Rare bloodline. Thought to be extinct for 2 centuries. Reapers don't just shift into wolves. They have an additional ability. They can mark targets. Once marked, they can track that person anywhere in the world. Feel their location like a compass in their mind. It's a tactical advantage that's almost godlike. Intelligence agencies have been trying to replicate it artificially for decades, and you have it naturally. He stood up from his desk, began pacing. His energy was too large for the small room. He radiated barely contained power, dominance, and something else, satisfaction. Your father knew. That's why he suppressed you. A Reaper under his control would have been valuable for his arms dealing. He could have tracked buyers, tracked shipments, never lost a target. But an independent Reaper is a threat, someone who can't be controlled or manipulated easily. So he crippled you, kept you weak and invisible so no one would know what you really were. Sera felt something crack open inside her chest. 20 years of being told she was worthless, defective, a genetic dead end. All of it was a lie. She wasn't broken. She was caged. "Can you fix it?" Her voice came out raw with suppressed emotion. "Can you give me back what he took?" Bishop and I discussed it extensively. We think so, but there's significant risk. When we break the suppression, your wolf will emerge fast, potentially violent, and your Reaper ability will activate. You'll be able to mark people, but you'll also experience what they experience: pain, fear, death. The historical records say Reapers went insane from the sensory overload, felt too much, absorbed too much trauma from the people they marked. Every Reaper in recorded history eventually went mad or was killed, usually both. Marcus stopped pacing, turned to face her directly. His presence filled the space, alpha dominance radiating from every line of his body. "I need that ability, Sera. My people are dead because I couldn't find the enemy fast enough. Wraith Syndicate is planning something catastrophic. If you could mark one of their operatives, I could track them anywhere, stop them before they kill thousands. But I won't force you. This has to be your choice, your decision, your consent freely given." "What happens if I say no?" "You stay here, under pack protection. We'll find another way to stop Wraith. It'll take longer, cost more lives. But we'll do it. I don't sacrifice pack members against their will. That's not how I lead. And if I say yes, we break the suppression tonight, train you to control the Reaper ability, deploy you in the field as an intelligence asset within a week. You'll be in danger. You'll see violence. You might not survive, but you'll matter. You'll be part of something bigger than yourself. You'll help save lives, and you'll never be invisible again, never be powerless again. You'll be valued for exactly what you are." Sera looked at the photos on the wall, the warriors who had died doing something that mattered. She thought about the girl she'd been, invisible, silent, worth nothing. Then she thought about the girl she could become, dangerous, capable, valued not despite what she was, but because of it. "Do it. Break the binding. I want my wolf back. I want my power back. I want everything my father stole from me." Marcus's eyes flashed with approval and something deeper, pride. He stepped close to her, closer than he'd been since the warehouse, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact, close enough that his scent surrounded her completely, pine and smoke and alpha musk. "This is going to hurt," he warned, his voice dropping to that low rumble that bypassed thought and spoke directly to instinct. "Breaking magical bindings is like ripping scar tissue from healthy flesh. Your wolf has been caged for 15 years. When she gets out, she's going to be angry, feral, dangerous. You'll have to fight her for control, fight yourself." He reached out, cupped her face with one large hand. The touch was gentle despite the roughness of his calluses, despite hands that had killed and could kill again. "But I'll be there. My presence will help stabilize you. Alpha dominance calms new shifts, gives them something to anchor to. You won't be alone in this. I won't let you fall. Do you understand?" Sera's breath caught. His hand on her face was electric. His eyes were molten silver now, wolf very close to the surface. She could feel his power pressing against her, could feel something in her chest responding even though she had no wolf. "Not yet. I understand." "Good girl," he murmured. The praise sent warmth flooding through her entire body. "Then tonight, we begin your transformation." They moved to the medical building as sunset painted the mountains gold and red. The room they used was reinforced, walls padded, restraints built into a medical chair in case things went very wrong. Sera sat and let them strap her arms down, not tight enough to hurt, just secure enough to prevent her from injuring herself when the pain hit. Bishop inserted an IV line. "This is the counter agent. It'll neutralize the chemical suppressants over the next 20 minutes. The magical binding will take more work. We have a specialist coming in for that." The specialist arrived 10 minutes later. A woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that gleamed with old power. She smelled like herbs and smoke and something wild. A witch. Sera's skin prickled in her presence even without a wolf to sense magic. The woman examined Sera's aura with hands that didn't quite touch her skin, but felt like they were peeling back layers. Nasty work, this. Whoever bound her knew what they were doing. 3 layers deep, hooked into her nervous system, threaded through her chakras, going to feel like being burned from the inside out when I pull it free. like your soul is being peeled away from your body. Marcus stood at Sera's side. How long? 10 minutes if she has a high pain tolerance. 15 if she doesn't. Could be fatal if she goes into shock. I've seen it happen with weaker subjects. She won't go into shock, Marcus said with absolute confidence. She's stronger than she looks, stronger than she knows. The witch began to chant in a language Sera didn't recognize. Something old, something that predated modern werewolf society. The air grew heavy, pressing down like atmospheric pressure before a storm. Then the pain started. It felt exactly like the witch had described. Like barbed wire being dragged through her veins, like her bones were breaking and reforming simultaneously, like fire and ice and electricity all at once. Sera's back arched against the restraints. She tried not to scream, but the sound ripped out of her anyway, animal and desperate. Marcus's hand found hers gripping tight. His other hand pressed against her forehead, and suddenly there was an anchor. Something to hold on to in the sea of agony. His voice cut through the pain, commanding and absolute. I'm here. You're not alone. Focus on my voice, not the pain. Focus on me, Sera. Stay with me. Don't let go. The binding tore free. Sera felt it snap like a chain breaking, like a dam bursting. And then everything changed. Power flooded into her, filling spaces that had been empty her whole life. Her senses sharpened dramatically. She could smell Marcus's scent with crystal clarity now, every note of pine and smoke and the underlying musk that marked him as alpha. She could hear heartbeats, multiple, everyone in the room. She could feel the air pressure, the temperature differentials, the electromagnetic fields from the medical equipment. And then the wolf came, not gentle, not gradual. It exploded into her consciousness like a tsunami of instinct and fury and savage joy. 15 years of captivity condensed into a single scream of rage and triumph. The wolf didn't ask permission. It took. Sera's vision went white, then black, then shifted into something that saw in shades of heat and motion and threat assessment. The restraints snapped like paper. She was on her feet, moving before conscious thought caught up. Her body changed, bones cracking and reforming, muscles tearing and rebuilding stronger. Fur erupted from her skin in waves of silver and white. The shift was agony and ecstasy, pain and pleasure, death and rebirth. When it finished, Sera stood on 4 legs for the first time in her life. She was a wolf, not large but perfectly formed. Her coat was unusual, silver white that would blend into snow or moonlight. Her eyes, when she caught her reflection in the observation glass, were violet, not a color that occurred naturally in wolves. A reaper's eyes. The wolf's first instinct was to run, to hunt, to kill anything that smelled like threat. Bishop was backing away slowly, hands raised. The witch was muttering protective charms. Rachel had appeared with a tranquilizer gun, just in case. But Marcus stood his ground. He'd shifted as well, his transformation faster and more controlled. His wolf was massive, black as midnight with those same storm-gray eyes. He was every inch an alpha, dominant, powerful, dangerous. When he growled, the sound vibrated through Sera's chest like thunder. It was a command and a challenge. Submit or fight, choose pack or choose chaos. Sera's wolf wanted to fight, wanted to test herself against this male who smelled like power and protection and something deeper. Mate, her instincts whispered. Alpha, ours. Number. He wasn't hers. She was barely hers. She didn't have the right to claim anything yet. Marcus growled again, stepping closer. He moved like violence given form, but his eyes, those silver-gray eyes, held something other than aggression. They held patience, understanding, dominance tempered by care. Control it, his posture said. You're not the wolf. The wolf is part of you. Take control. Sera grabbed the wolf by the throat. Metaphorically, spiritually, however you controlled something that was part of your own soul. And she pulled it back, forced it down, not suppressing it, not caging it again, integrating it, making it part of herself instead of letting it consume her. It took 5 minutes of absolute war inside her own mind, but when Sera's eyes cleared, they were hers again. Violet, but aware, in control. Marcus shifted back to human first, his transformation fluid and practiced. He stood there, naked and unbothered, a towel in his hand that Rachel tossed him. He didn't cover himself immediately, just looked at Sera with approval blazing in his eyes. You back? His voice was rough from the shift. Yeah. Sera's wolf voice was startled to hear it emerge as a growl. She was still shifted, still processing the newness of having 4 legs and fur and teeth designed to tear flesh. Good. Now shift back. Think of your human form. Visualize it. Will yourself back into it. It's going to hurt. Everything about shifting hurts until you get used to it. But you can do it. It took 20 agonizing minutes. Her first shift back was clumsy, uncontrolled, leaving her gasping and naked on the padded floor. Rachel was there immediately with a blanket, wrapping it around her before Sera had to process the vulnerability of being nude in front of strangers. But Marcus had seen, and the look in his eyes when they met hers was pure alpha satisfaction, pride, and underneath it something hotter, possessive. Mine, his eyes said. My pack, my territory, mine to protect and train and keep safe. You did good, he said, his voice carrying across the room. Better than most. Some people lose themselves to their wolf the first time. Take days to come back. You did it in minutes. That's control. That's strength. Sera wrapped the blanket tighter around herself, suddenly aware of how much her body ached, how exhausted she was, how every muscle felt like it had been shredded and rebuilt. What happens now? Now you learn to shift at will, to control the transformation. We'll do it together. Run the territory. Let your wolf out safely. Build the pack bond. He approached her, knelt down so they were at eye level. Tomorrow we train in wolf form. Tomorrow you learn what it means to be pack, to be protected by an alpha, to run free for the first time in your life. He reached out, tucked a strand of sweaty hair behind her ear. The gesture was surprisingly gentle from hands that could kill so efficiently. Rest tonight. Your body needs to recover from the shift. But know this, Sera, you're not invisible anymore. You're not worthless. You're a reaper. You're pack. And you're under my protection. Anyone who tries to hurt you answers to me. Anyone who dismisses you as weak will learn exactly how wrong they are. He stood, offered his hand. She took it. Let him pull her to her feet. Let him support her when her legs threatened to buckle. Welcome to the pack, Reaper. Welcome home. That night, Sera learned to shift 3 more times. Each transformation was easier than the last, though still painful. By midnight, she could complete the change in under 5 minutes. By 3 a.m., she could do it in 2. Marcus was there for all of it, his presence a stabilizing force, his dominance giving her something to push against, something to anchor to. And when the training was done, when she was exhausted and sore and barely able to stand, he carried her back to her quarters, physically picked her up despite her protests, and carried her like she weighed nothing, like she was precious cargo that required protection. He laid her on the bed, pulled the blanket over her. His hand lingered on her hair for a moment, smoothing it back from her face. Sleep, Sera. Tomorrow we hunt. She wanted to ask what he meant. Wanted to ask why he was being so gentle with her. Wanted to ask if his wolf really had recognized her as something important. But exhaustion claimed her before the words could form. Marcus stood in the doorway watching her sleep. His wolf was restless, pushing against his control, wanting to stay, wanting to guard, wanting to claim. Not yet, he told it. She's not ready. She needs to understand her own power first, needs to choose this freely. Can't claim a mate who doesn't know what claiming means. But soon, his wolf promised, soon she'll be ours. Soon she'll understand what it means when an alpha recognizes his mate. He closed the door quietly and walked away. Left Sera to sleep under his protection, under his watch, in his territory. Mine, his wolf whispered. Ours, Marcus corrected. And in her sleep, Sera's new wolf stirred, recognizing the scent that lingered, recognizing the power that had helped her break free, recognizing something her human mind wasn't ready to admit yet. Mate, it whispered. Alpha. Home. The mark led north. Sera could feel it like a compass needle pulled by magnetic north, pointing always toward the same coordinates deep in Brooklyn's industrial district. 3 days had passed since her first shift. 3 days of learning to control the wolf that now lived inside her. 3 days of training under Marcus Kade's relentless instruction. 3 days of trying not to think about the way his scent made her wolf whine with longing. The operations center hummed with pre-mission tension. Bishop had 3 screens running simultaneously, displaying thermal imaging of the target building, communications intercepts from suspected Wraith operatives, and tactical overlay maps marking every entry point and exit strategy. Marcus stood at the main display, studying enemy positions with the cold focus she'd come to recognize. When he was in operational mode, the Alpha King disappeared behind the Marine Raider. All business, all tactical precision. But sometimes she caught him watching her, caught the way his eyes tracked her movements across the room, caught the slight flare of his nostrils when she passed close enough for him to scent her, caught the possessive edge that crept into his voice when he gave her direct orders. Her wolf loved it, preened under his attention, wanted more of it, wanted to roll over and show him her throat, wanted to press against him and coat herself in his scent, wanted things Sera's human mind knew were complicated and dangerous. Rachel noticed. Of course Rachel noticed. The second had pulled Sera aside yesterday during weapons training, her expression a mix of amusement and warning. Alpha's wolf has claimed you. You know that, right? Sera had fumbled the magazine reload she'd been practicing. What? Rachel's smile was knowing. He hasn't acted on it. Won't until you're ready and you initiate. That's his way. Old school honor code. But his wolf has absolutely claimed you as mate. Every wolf in the pack can smell it on him. The way he watches you. The way he positions himself between you and any potential threat. The way he growls when other males get too close. That's mate guarding behavior. Possessive alpha behavior. But Sera had protested. I'm barely pack. I've been a wolf for 3 days. I don't even know how to fight properly yet. Why would an alpha king want me as a mate? Rachel had laughed. You're serious. You really don't see it. Sera, you're a reaper, last of an extinct bloodline. You have abilities that make you invaluable tactically. But more than that, you survived 20 years of suppression and abuse and came out the other side with your spirit intact. You don't cower. You don't break. You fight. Alpha respects strength, admires resilience, and his wolf recognizes a mate when he scents one. You could be a complete civilian with no combat skills, and his wolf would still want you. That's how mate bonds work. It's not logical. It's primal. Now, standing in the operations center and feeling Marcus's gaze on her for the third time in 10 minutes, Sera understood what Rachel meant. There was weight to his attention, intensity, like she was the most important thing in the room despite all the tactical planning happening around them. Bishop pulled up the mission brief. Target is a warehouse in Red Hook. Intelligence suggests this is a meet between Wraith Logistics Coordinator and local buyers. We have 72 hours before they move the shipment to secondary location. After that, trail goes cold. What's the shipment? Marcus asked, his voice all business. Unknown. Could be weapons. Could be worse. Given Wraith's previous operations, I'm betting bioweapons. The timing coincides with the UN General Assembly next week. If they're planning a mass casualty attack, this is their window. Marcus nodded slowly. Team composition? Myself as lead, Rachel on point, Priest handling breaching and demo, Bishop on overwatch, and Reaper 6 for target marking. Every head in the room turned to look at Sera. She straightened her spine, refusing to show uncertainty, even though her heart hammered. This would be her first field operation. First time putting her training to real use. First time her life would actually be in danger beyond controlled training scenarios. Reaper 6, Marcus said, using her operational call sign with the same authority he used for everything. His eyes found hers across the room. Your job is target marking only. You stay with me at all times. When I identify the primary target, you move in, establish physical contact, mark him. Then you extract to the rally point immediately. Clear? Clear. His eyes held hers for a beat longer than necessary. I will not let anything happen to you. You understand? You're under my protection. That means I put myself between you and every bullet if necessary. Alpha, that's not protocol, Rachel started to protest. Marcus cut her off with a look. It's my protocol, my operation, my pack. He looked back at Sera. Do you trust me? The question hung in the air. Did she? This man who had bought her from her father, who had broken the magical binding that had crippled her for 20 years, who had spent 3 days teaching her to be a wolf, a fighter, something more than the ghost she'd been. Did she trust him? Yes, Sera heard herself say, I trust you. Something flashed in his eyes. Satisfaction, pride, and something hotter that made her wolf whine low in her throat. Good girl, he murmured, and the praise hit her like a physical caress. They geared up in the armory. Sera's tactical equipment was new, fitted specifically for her smaller frame. Body armor that actually protected without weighing her down. Magazine pouches positioned for easy access, sidearm holstered on her thigh. Rachel had taught her the gear checks, the pre-mission rituals that kept operators alive. Marcus approached while she was adjusting her vest straps. He didn't ask permission, just stepped into her personal space and began checking her equipment with professional efficiency. But there was nothing professional about the way his hands lingered slightly, the way his fingers brushed her collarbone when he checked the armor plates, the way he leaned in close enough that she could feel his breath on her neck. "Straps are too loose here," he said, his voice dropping to that low rumble that made her shiver. "You need the vest tight to your body. Otherwise, it'll shift during movement, compromise your protection." His hands adjusted the straps, pulling the vest snug against her. His knuckles brushed the sides of her breasts through the shirt she wore under the armor. Accidental, probably. But her body reacted anyway, nipples tightening, breath catching. "Better?" she managed to ask. "Better." But he didn't step away, just stood there, towering over her, his scent surrounding her completely. His eyes were molten silver. "Wolf, very close to the surface. You smell nervous." "I am nervous. First operation, first time everything's real." Fear keeps you sharp, but you need to trust your training, trust your instincts. He reached up, tucked a strand of hair that had escaped her tactical braid behind her ear. The gesture was tender, at odds with the warrior preparing for violence. "And trust me, I won't let anything happen to you." "I know," she whispered. His hand moved from her hair to cup her jaw, thumb brushing over her cheekbone. The touch was electric, possessive, claiming in a way that had nothing to do with pack hierarchy and everything to do with mate bonds. "When this is over," he said quietly, voice pitched for her ears only, "when we've completed the mission and you're safe back at the compound, we're going to talk about this, about what's happening between us, about what my wolf wants, what your wolf wants, but not now. Now we focus on the operation, on keeping you alive. Everything else waits. Agreed?" "Agreed," Sera breathed. He released her, stepped back, became the alpha king, the team leader, the operator. The tenderness vanished behind tactical coldness, but Sera could still feel the ghost of his touch on her skin, could still smell where his scent had transferred to her from the closeness. Rachel caught her eye from across the armory, raised one eyebrow. "Told you," she mouthed. The drive to Brooklyn took 90 minutes through late evening traffic. Sera sat in the back of the armored SUV between Marcus and Rachel, hyper-aware of the heat radiating from Marcus's body despite the space between them. He wasn't touching her, wasn't even looking at her, but she could feel his attention like a physical weight. Bishop's voice crackled through their earpieces. "Drone is on station. Thermal shows 8 heat signatures inside the warehouse, 2 on perimeter patrol. Pattern matches previous surveillance. Target is likely the male in the central office, 2nd floor." "Copy," Marcus responded. "We breach in 10 minutes. Rachel, take your team through north entrance. I'll take south with Reaper 6. Priest, you're on demo. Bishop, keep eyes on our 6. Call out any reinforcements." They parked 2 blocks from the target and approached on foot. The warehouse was old brick and corrugated metal, lit by sodium lamps that cast everything in sickly orange. Sera's wolf was alert, every sense heightened. She could smell gun oil and male aggression, could hear heartbeats from inside the building even at this distance. Her Reaper sense was quiet but ready, waiting to be activated. Perimeter guards went down to Priest's suppressed shots, tranquilizer rounds. They'd wake with headaches but alive. The mission was intelligence gathering, not assassination. They needed prisoners to interrogate, needed the target alive for Sera to mark. "Perimeter secure," Priest reported. "Charges set on south entrance." Marcus looked at Sera. "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say when I say it. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to shoot, you shoot. Don't think, don't hesitate, just execute. Understand?" "Yes, sir." His eyes flashed at the sir. He liked that, liked her acknowledging his authority. His wolf practically purred. "Good." He reached out, squeezed her shoulder once. Brief, reassuring. "Then we go." The breach was textbook. Shaped charges blew the door. Flashbangs followed. Marcus flowed through the opening with his rifle up, and Sera stayed glued to his back like Rachel had drilled into her. The warehouse interior was chaos, smoke and strobing light from the flashbangs. Men stumbling, reaching for weapons. Marcus engaged with controlled precision. 2 round bursts, leg hits, shoulder hits. Disabling but not lethal. "Contact left," he called. Sera swung her rifle as trained, saw a man raising a weapon toward Marcus's exposed flank. She fired. 3 rounds center mass, just like Rachel had taught her. The man went down. Her first real engagement. First time shooting at a living person who was trying to kill her team. The training held. She didn't freeze, didn't panic, just executed. "Good shot," Marcus said, voice tight with approval. "Keep moving." They pushed deeper into the warehouse. Rachel's team was clearing the north side, their progress marked by call-outs and controlled fire. Priest was setting demo charges as they advanced, insurance against enemy reoccupation. Everything was going according to plan, until the second floor. They found the target in a converted office space, a man in his 40s with burn scars across one side of his face and the cold eyes of someone who'd seen too many wars. Alexei Volkov, former Spetsnaz turned arms dealer, Wraith's logistics coordinator and the key to unraveling their entire network. He was reaching for a pistol when Marcus put a round through his hand. The man screamed, dropped to his knees. Marcus was on him instantly, forcing him prone with professional efficiency. "Sera, on me. Mark him now." Sera approached, heart hammering. This was it. Her first real use of the Reaper ability in the field. She knelt beside Alexei, placed her hand on his shoulder, reached out with that new sense, that connection to space and life force that made her unique. The mark snapped into place easily, too easily, like it had been waiting for this moment. Suddenly she could feel Alexei's heartbeat as clearly as her own, could sense his location in space like a beacon, could taste his fear and his anger and something else. Satisfaction. "Got him," she gasped. "The mark is set." "Good," Marcus said. "Extract to the rally point. We'll handle interrogation." Sera stood, turned to leave. That's when Alexei started laughing. Not the laugh of a broken man, the laugh of someone who had one last card to play. "You think you're so clever," he said in heavily accented English, blood dripping from his ruined hand. "You think you caught me, but Cross said you would come, said the Reaper would need to mark me. He's been hunting your kind for 2 centuries. He knows how you work." Marcus grabbed Alexei by the collar. "What are you talking about?" "The device in my tooth." Alexei's smile was red with blood. "It's transmitting her signature right now, triangulating her exact location. In 5 minutes, Cross will know exactly where the Reaper is, and he's been waiting 200 years for this. Thank you for delivering her to him." Marcus's expression went flat. "Dangerous. Where is Cross?" "You'll find out soon enough." Alexei bit down hard. Sera heard the crunch of something breaking, saw foam begin to form at his lips, cyanide capsule hidden in a false tooth. "No!" Marcus tried to pry Alexei's mouth open, but it was too late. The poison worked fast. Sera was still marked to him, still connected. And as Alexei died, she felt everything. The poison burning through his cardiovascular system like acid. His heart spasming, irregular beats that grew farther apart. His brain firing in random, desperate patterns, neurons misfiring as oxygen was cut off. His fear, overwhelming now, breaking through the bravado. His last coherent thought, "I serve the cause, Cross will finish it." Then death. That cessation she'd experienced before with the Marine's essence, but this time live, real time, immediate. A human being dying while she was intimately connected to his consciousness. The mark didn't break when he died. It stayed, a cold ghost signature where life had been. Sera collapsed, screaming, but not hearing it over the echo of Alexei's final heartbeat playing in her mind like a drum that wouldn't stop. Rachel caught her before she hit the floor. "She's in shock!" Rachel called out. "Medical evac now!" Marcus was already on the radio, his voice clipped and controlled despite the fury radiating from him. "Bishop, we're compromised. Alexei had a tracking device. Wraith knows we're here and they know about Reaper 6. Full tactical alert on the compound. If Cross is who I think he is, he's coming for her." The extraction was a blur. Sera was conscious but not present, locked in the loop of Alexei's death. Could still feel the poison burning, still feel his heart stopping, still feel that final moment of cessation, over and over. They sedated her in the vehicle, strong enough to break the mental loop, pull her consciousness away from the mark and back into her own body. When she woke 16 hours later, she was in medical. Marcus was sitting beside her bed in the same chair he'd occupied 3 days ago. He looked like he hadn't slept. Probably hadn't. "How bad?" Her voice was hoarse, throat raw from screaming she didn't remember. Marcus didn't sugarcoat it. Never did. "You experienced your first connected death, full sensory immersion. Most Reapers in historical records went insane after the 3rd or 4th connected death. The human mind isn't designed to carry that much death, to feel that many final moments. How many did I just feel? 1. But you'll carry Alexei's mark forever. Even dead, you'll always have that ghost signature, a constant reminder of his death. And we pulled intelligence from Wraith's files before we extracted. Cross isn't just some rogue operator. He's old, Sera, 200 years old. Rare alpha longevity, and he has a history of hunting and killing Reapers. 47 successful kills over 2 centuries. You're the first active Reaper to surface in that time, and he knows about you now. Sera felt the weight of that information, felt the ghost of Alexei's mark pulling at her consciousness even now. He's coming for me. Yes, but he'll plan first. Study you. Prepare. Cross is strategic. He's survived 2 centuries by being patient. We have time. Maybe a week, maybe 2, but he's coming. Then we use that time, Sera said, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. Train me harder. Make me operational. If he's hunting me, I want to be ready to fight back. Marcus studied her with those storm gray eyes. You just experienced death. Real death. Most people would run. I spent 20 years running from myself, from what I could be. I'm done running. Whatever happens next, I choose to face it standing up. Something that might have been pride crossed Marcus's face. Then we train. Bishop is working on counter-tracking measures. Rachel will continue combat instruction. And I'll teach you to control the Reaper ability better. How to mark without absorbing the full emotional load. How to track without losing yourself. He stood, moved to the side of her bed, looked down at her with an intensity that made breathing difficult. And I need you to know something. What happened out there, with Alexei dying while you were marked to him, that wasn't your fault. You did everything right, executed perfectly. This is the cost of the Reaper ability, the price you pay for the power. But you're not alone in carrying it, you understand? Your pack, my pack. Your burden is my burden. He reached out, brushed hair back from her forehead with surprising gentleness. My wolf is going insane right now. Wants to shift and hunt down everyone who put you in danger. Wants to guard you every second. Wants to never let you out of my sight. I'm barely controlling it. Why? Sera whispered. Why does your wolf care so much? Marcus's eyes held hers. Because you're my mate. My wolf knew it the second he caught your scent in that warehouse 3 days ago. Knew it with absolute certainty. The kind of certainty that doesn't require logic or reason. You're mine to protect, mine to guard, mine to keep safe. That's not negotiable. That's not something I can turn off. My wolf has claimed you. Now my human half is catching up to that reality. But I'm new to being a wolf. I barely know how to shift. I'm not ready for a mate bond. I know, Marcus said gently. That's why I'm telling you now instead of acting on it. You need to know what's happening so you can make an informed choice when the time comes. My wolf wants to claim you, wants to mark you as mine, so every wolf in a 100-mile radius knows you're under alpha protection. But I won't do that until you're ready, until you choose it freely. This isn't about dominance or possession. This is about recognizing that you're my equal, my partner, potentially my mate if that's what you want when you're ready to make that decision. What if I'm never ready? Pain flashed across his face. Then I live with it. I wait. I protect you anyway because that's what alphas do for their packs. But I hope, his voice dropped lower, rough with emotion, I hope you'll be ready eventually. I hope you'll choose this. Choose me. Because my wolf has never felt this way about anyone, and I don't think he's wrong. Sera's heart hammered. Her wolf was singing, practically throwing itself at the bars of her control, desperate to accept, to roll over, to show submission and acceptance. But her human mind needed time, needed to understand what accepting an alpha's claim meant. I need time, she said quietly. You have it, Marcus promised. All the time you need. But know this. While you're deciding, I'm protecting you with everything I have. Cross wants to add you to his collection of dead Reapers. He's going to have to go through me first, and I don't die easily. For the next 5 days, Sera trained harder than she'd thought possible. Not just physical training, though there was plenty of that, but emotional training, learning to mark objects instead of people to build control, learning to modulate the intensity of the mark so she wasn't overwhelmed by sensory input, learning to maintain multiple marks simultaneously without losing track of herself. Marcus was there for all of it, teaching, guiding, correcting, and protecting. He never let her push too far, never let her risk breaking herself in pursuit of perfection. And every session ended with that same look, that possessive, patient, hungry look that said mine, even though he never said the word out loud. The physical training intensified too. Rachel ran her through advanced combat drills. Priest taught her about explosives and breaching techniques. Bishop showed her intelligence analysis and tactical planning. Every member of the pack contributed to making her operational. But it was Marcus's training that pushed her hardest. Hand-to-hand combat where he didn't pull his punches. Tactical scenarios where he played enemy and made her think on her feet. Wolf form sparring where he used his size and strength advantage ruthlessly to teach her how to fight smarter instead of harder. The day after Alexei's death, when Sera was still recovering emotionally but insisted on training anyway, Marcus took her to the mat with an intensity that bordered on ferocity. He needed to work off his own rage at seeing her hurt, needed to channel the protective instinct that was eating him alive. "Come at me," he commanded, standing in the center of the mat in fighting stance. "Show me what you learned. Show me you can protect yourself when I'm not there." Sera approached cautiously. She knew this mood, knew that Marcus was fighting his wolf's demand to wrap her in bubble wrap and never let her leave his sight. The only way through it was to prove her competence, to show him she could handle herself. She feinted left, went right, aimed to strike at his ribs. He blocked easily, but she'd anticipated that, used his block as leverage to spin behind him, went for a kidney shot. He turned with her, caught her wrist, pulled her off balance. But instead of releasing her, he pulled her against his chest, his arm wrapping around her from behind. His other hand came up to rest on her throat, not squeezing, just holding, possessive, dominant. "If I was an enemy, you'd be dead," he growled in her ear. His breath was hot against her skin. His chest was solid against her back. His scent surrounded her completely. "But you're not dead, because I will never let anything happen to you. Do you understand?" "Marcus," Sera breathed. "I'm okay. I survived. We both did." "But you could have died." His arm tightened around her middle, pulling her impossibly closer. "When Alexei bit that capsule and you felt him die, when you collapsed screaming, my wolf almost lost control, almost shifted right there and torn through everyone to get to you, to protect you, to kill anything that had hurt you." He released her throat to turn her in his arms, forcing her to face him. His eyes were silver, wolf very close to the surface. "You're mine to protect, Sera. Mine, and I failed you. Let you walk into that warehouse. Let you get close enough to mark a man who had a suicide protocol. Should have anticipated it. Should have protected you better." "You didn't fail me," Sera said firmly. She reached up, placed her hands on his face, making him look at her. "You gave me the training to survive. You gave me the confidence to act. You saved me after when I was drowning in his death. You didn't fail. You succeeded. We succeeded." Something in his expression cracked. The Alpha King facade fell away, and she saw the man underneath, the warrior who carried too much responsibility, who blamed himself for every casualty, who was terrified of losing the mate his wolf had chosen. "I can't lose you," he admitted, his voice raw. "Not now. Not when I've finally found you. My wolf won't survive it. I won't survive it." "Then don't lose me," Sera whispered. "Fight with me, not for me. Trust me to be your partner, not just your responsibility. I'm stronger than you think, stronger than I thought. You made me that way." Marcus studied her face for a long moment. Then he kissed her. Not the desperate claiming kiss from earlier. This was softer, sweeter, a promise instead of a demand. When he pulled back, some of the wildness had left his eyes. "Prove it," he said. "Show me you can take me down. Really take me down. Make me believe you can survive when I'm not there to protect you." What followed was the most intense training session Sera had ever experienced. Marcus didn't hold back, didn't give her openings, forced her to work for every advantage. He used his size against her, his strength, his decades of experience, pinned her again and again, made her fight her way free, made her think creatively. By the end of 2 hours, they were both exhausted, covered in sweat, breathing hard. But Sera had finally managed a successful reversal, using his own momentum against him to put him on his back, with her elbow against his throat. "Good," Marcus rasped, approval blazing in his eyes even as he lay pinned beneath her. "That's my girl. That's my mate learning to fight." The word mate sent heat flooding through Sera's body, made her hyper-aware of their position, of his body beneath hers, of the way his hands had come to rest on her hips, holding her in place. "Marcus?" she started, not sure what she was asking for. "Not yet," he said, though his grip on her hips tightened. "Not here. Not like this. When I claim you properly, when you accept the mate bond, it won't be on a training mat covered in sweat. It'll be after this is done, after Cross is dealt with, after you're safe, because you deserve better than me taking you in the middle of a crisis." He lifted her off him with easy strength, set her on her feet. But he didn't let go immediately, just stood there, holding her, breathing in her scent like he was trying to memorize it. "Tonight we do wolf form sparring," he said finally. "You need to learn how to use your size to your advantage, how to be faster when you can't be stronger. And I need to burn off this protective rage before my wolf does something stupid like lock you in my quarters and never let you out." That night they ran to a clearing deep in the territory, shifted under the stars, and Marcus showed her what it meant to spar with an alpha king. His black wolf was magnificent, enormous, every movement calculated for maximum efficiency. When he came at her, it was like facing an avalanche, unstoppable, overwhelming. Sera's silver wolf was dwarfed by comparison, but Rachel's training kicked in. Don't fight strength with strength. Use speed, use agility, make him chase. She darted around him, too fast for him to catch easily, nipped at his flanks when he turned, used her smaller size to slip under his guard. It wasn't about winning. It was about surviving, about proving she could hold her own even against an opponent who outclassed her in every physical dimension. Marcus's wolf was pleased. She could sense it through the growing bond between them, pleased with her cleverness, her courage, her refusal to submit even when outmatched. This was a mate worthy of an alpha, a female who would fight beside him, not hide behind him. They sparred for an hour until both were tired. Then Marcus's wolf did something unexpected. He rolled over, showed his belly, an alpha showing submission, not to her dominance, but to his own recognition that she was his equal in the ways that mattered. Sera's wolf understood the gesture, approached carefully, nuzzled his throat where the kill bite would go. Acceptance, recognition, a promise of what would come when the time was right. They shifted back to human eventually, dressed in the clothes they'd stashed, sat together on a fallen log, comfortable in the silence. "You fight well," Marcus said, "better than I expected after only 5 days of training. You have instincts, good ones. You'll survive what's coming." "Because you taught me how," Sera replied. "No, because you refused to stay a victim. I just gave you tools. You chose to use them. That's all you, Sera, all your strength, your courage, your will to fight." He reached over, took her hand, threaded their fingers together. The touch was electric, sending sparks of awareness up her arm. "After this is over," he said quietly, "after we stop Cross and dismantle Wraith, I'm going to court you properly, take you on dates, show you what it means to be cherished, not just protected. Give you the choice to accept or reject the mate bond in a setting that isn't life or death. You deserve that. Deserve the chance to choose freely." "I've already chosen," Sera said. "My wolf knows. My heart knows. I'm just waiting for my mind to catch up. But it's coming. I can feel it. You're mine just as much as I'm yours." Marcus's eyes flashed silver in the moonlight. "Careful," he warned. "You say things like that and my control is going to snap, going to claim you right here in the forest like a feral wolf. Would that be so bad?" "Yes, because you deserve better. Deserve flowers and romance and a proper mating, not just an alpha losing control." The next 3 days were a blur of training, planning, and increasing tension. Elena Volkov arrived with her team, bringing fresh complications. The woman was professional, but the way she looked at Marcus set Sera's teeth on edge, like she was evaluating him, sizing him up, remembering something. Rachel noticed Sera's reaction during a briefing, pulled her aside afterward. "Elena and Marcus have history," Rachel explained. "Not romantic. Professional. They've worked contracts together before. She respects him. But she's also an alpha in her own right. Dominant. Territorial. Seeing another female under his protection is making her test boundaries. It's instinct. She needs to know where she stands in the hierarchy." "And where does she stand?" "Below you," Rachel said with a smile. "You're going to be Alpha Queen, Marcus's mate. That puts you second only to him in pack hierarchy. Elena can sense the mate bond forming. She's testing to see if you'll assert yourself or let her push you around. I don't want to fight her. You won't have to. Just stand your ground. Show her you're not threatened, that you know your place at Marcus's side. The confrontation came during weapons training. Elena approached while Sera was running shooting drills, her posture aggressive, territorial. "You're the Reaper," Elena said. "The one Marcus bought from Merrick. I heard the story." Sera lowered her rifle carefully, turned to face the other woman. "I am. And now you're what? His pet project? His responsibility? Seems like a lot of effort for someone who can't even fight properly." It was a challenge, a test. Sera's wolf rose to meet it, hackles up, ready to defend her place. "I'm his mate," Sera said clearly. "Or will be once this is over. I'm pack, I'm operational, and I'm not threatened by you questioning it." Elena's eyebrows rose, then she smiled. "Good answer. I was wondering if you had teeth or if you were all bark. Marcus deserves a mate who can stand up for herself, not some simpering female who needs constant protection." She offered her hand. "Elena Volkov, Apex Security. If you're going to be Alpha Queen, you should know I respect strength. You've got it. Raw and untrained, but it's there." Sera shook her hand, feeling the test pass. "Thank you." After Elena left, Sera found Marcus had been watching the entire interaction from across the range. He approached with that proud look in his eyes. "Well handled," he said. "Elena respects strength. You showed her you have it. She'll follow you now. Trust you. That's what leadership looks like." The mission briefing of that night was tense but thorough. 42 hostiles, fortified position, chemical weapons as a dead man's switch. It was a nightmare scenario, but it was also their only option. Cross had to be stopped. The bioweapon had to be destroyed, and Sera was the key to making it happen. Marcus pulled her aside after the briefing. "Tomorrow we go to war. Tonight, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Shift. Run with me one more time. Let me memorize your scent, your laugh, the way you move, just in case." "In case what?" "In case I don't make it back. In case this goes wrong. I need to remember what I'm fighting for. Need to carry that with me." They shifted and ran through the territory under stars, played like wolves, chasing and tumbling and enjoying the simple joy of being alive, of being together, of being free. When they shifted back, Marcus pulled her close, held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "If anything happens to me," he said quietly, "if I don't make it back, you lead the pack. Rachel will help you. Bishop will support you. You're strong enough, capable enough. Don't let my death stop you from becoming what you're meant to be." "Nothing's going to happen to you," Sera said fiercely. "We're both coming back. We're going to finish Cross, and then you're going to court me properly like you promised, and I'm going to accept your mate bond, and we're going to have the life we deserve." "Promise me," Marcus demanded. "Promise me if something happens, you'll survive. You'll lead. You'll keep fighting." "I promise," Sera whispered. "But only if you promise to do everything in your power to come back to me." "Always," he said. "For you, always." They stood together in the darkness, two warriors on the eve of battle, two wolves who had found each other against all odds, two souls recognizing their mate even in the midst of war. Tomorrow they would face death. Tonight they had each other, and that would have to be enough. During one particularly brutal training session, he had her pinned on the mat, his body covering hers, his hand on her throat. Not choking, just holding, dominating. His eyes were pure wolf, silver and burning. "What do you do when an opponent has you pinned?" he demanded. Sera's mind blanked. His weight on her was overwhelming. His scent was everywhere. His hand on her throat was possessive and protective simultaneously. Her wolf was purring, not threatened, but aroused, not helpful. "Answer me," he growled. "What do you do?" I don't know. You're too strong. I can't move you." "Wrong. You don't need to move me. You need to make me want to move. Where are my vulnerable points in this position?" Sera forced herself to think tactically instead of emotionally. His throat was exposed. His groin was between her legs. His eyes were targets. "I could strike your throat, or your eyes, or," she blushed, "other areas." "Good. Now do it. Show me you're willing to hurt me to survive." "I don't want to hurt you." His hand tightened slightly on her throat. Not painful, but definitely commanding attention. "If I was an enemy, you'd be dead. If this was Cross, he'd have you restrained and en route to his research facility. Sentiment gets you killed. So strike me. Now." Sera thrust 2 fingers toward his eyes. He caught her wrist, but had to shift his weight to do it. She used the opening to bring her knee up hard toward his groin. He blocked with his thigh, but had to release her throat. She rolled, got an arm free, went for his throat with her elbow. He could have stopped her easily, could have pinned her again. Instead, he let her get the upper hand, let her succeed in the reversal. "Better," he said, approval in his voice. "You're thinking like a fighter now, not like a victim." But he didn't get up. They stayed there on the mat, Sera now the one on top, breathing hard, her hands on his chest. His eyes locked on hers. The position was intimate, suggestive. His hands came to her waist, steadying her. "You're getting stronger," he said quietly. "Faster, more confident. I'm proud of you." The praise hit her like it always did, made her warm, made her wolf preen, made her lean closer without consciously deciding to. Marcus's eyes darkened. His grip on her waist tightened. "Careful, Sera. You're playing with fire." "Maybe I want to," she whispered. "Not here, not now. When I claim you, when you give yourself to me, it won't be on a training mat in the middle of a session. It'll be private. It'll be deliberate. It'll be everything you deserve. So unless you're ready for that right now, you need to get off me before my control breaks." Sera scrambled off him, face burning. Marcus stood with inhuman grace, offered his hand to help her up. When she took it, he pulled her close, kept her hand trapped between both of his. "Soon," he promised, his voice pitched low enough that only she could hear. "When this is over, when Cross is dealt with, when you're safe, we're going to have that conversation. We're going to decide what happens next, and I'm going to show you exactly what it means to be claimed by an Alpha King, if that's what you want." It was, Sera realized. She wanted it. Wanted him. Wanted the bond her wolf was screaming for. But he was right. Not now. Not with Cross hunting her. Not while danger loomed. "Okay," she whispered. "When it's over, we'll talk." On the 6th night, they ran the territory together. Just the two of them in wolf form, racing through the mountain forest under stars. Marcus's black wolf was poetry in motion, all power and grace. Sera's silver form was smaller but faster, more agile. She couldn't match his strength, but she could match his speed when she pushed. He led her to a ridge overlooking the compound. They shifted back to human, both breathing hard from the run. Marcus had brought a pack with clothes and water. They dressed in comfortable silence, then sat on the rocky outcrop watching the lights below. "Tell me about your team," Sera said. "The 6 who died. I should know their stories, know who I'm fighting for." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, each name and story delivered with the weight of memory and grief. When he got to his nephew, Marcus Webb, his voice finally cracked, just slightly, just enough to reveal the wound that still hadn't healed. Sera reached out, placed her hand over his. The first time she'd initiated contact like this. "You couldn't have saved them all. You can only honor them by continuing the fight." Marcus turned his hand over, palm to palm with hers, fingers interlacing. The touch was electric and grounding simultaneously. "I need to tell you something," he said. "The Red Hook operation, the bioweapon threat, that's real, but it's also bait. Cross isn't just planning a terrorist attack, he's planning to draw you out specifically. He's engineered a situation where thousands of lives depend on your abilities, where we have to deploy you or fail the mission. It's a trap designed to capture the last Reaper." "Then we don't deploy me," Sera said immediately. "We find another way." Marcus shook his head. "If we don't stop the bioweapon, thousands die. Cross wins either way. Deploy you, he captures you. Don't deploy you, innocents die. No win scenario." Sera stood, looked out at the compound below, at the lights and the warriors training for battles that would never make headlines. She thought about the Marine's essence she'd consumed, about his last thought. "I did my duty." "Then we change the game," she said. "We use Cross's trap against him. He expects me to be afraid, to hide behind you. We make him think that. But when he makes his move, I'm not prey. I'm the hunter." Marcus stood beside her. "You're talking about making yourself bait, about walking into a trap knowingly. I'm talking about choosing my battlefield, choosing to fight instead of hide. I've been prey my whole life. I'm done with that. It's dangerous. Cross has killed 47 Reapers. He's 2 centuries old. He's survived this long by being smart. Then I'll be smarter, or I'll die trying. Either way, it's my choice, not his, not yours, mine." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled, small but genuine. "I already trust you," he said. "Why do you think I'm training you this hard? You're not just an asset. You're a warrior, my mate. Even if you haven't accepted the bond yet, you're mine in every way that matters, and I don't doubt you." He pulled her close, arms around her waist. She had to tilt her head back to see his face. His eyes were molten silver in the moonlight. "When this is over," he promised, "when we've stopped cross, when the threat is neutralized, I'm going to court you properly, show you what it means to be cherished by an alpha, show you that you're not just protected but valued, respected, wanted, not for your abilities, for yourself." Sera's breath caught. Her wolf was singing. Her human heart was pounding. She reached up, touched his face with tentative fingers, traced the scar on his jaw. "I want that," she admitted. "Want you. Want this. I'm just scared. Scared of making the wrong choice. Scared of not being enough. Scared of disappointing you." "You could never disappoint me," Marcus said fiercely. "You've exceeded every expectation, surpassed every goal. You're stronger than you know, braver than you believe, and you're perfect exactly as you are." He leaned down, his forehead touching hers. Not a kiss, something more intimate, a promise of what could be. "Soon," he whispered, "very soon, you'll be mine in every way, and I'll be yours. Equal partners, mates, Alpha and his queen." They stood together on the ridge, two wolves recognizing what they could become together. The hunt was coming. The battle loomed. But for this moment, they had peace. They had each other. They had the promise of something more waiting on the other side of danger. If they survived, when they survived, Marcus's wolf corrected, because failure wasn't an option, not when his mate was finally within reach. The next 3 days were a blur of intensive preparation. Marcus pushed the training to new levels, not just teaching Sera to survive, but teaching her to thrive in combat. Every session brought them closer physically and emotionally, the mate bond pulling tighter with each touch, each shared glance, each moment of vulnerability. Day 7, hand-to-hand combat training, advanced level. Marcus had Sera on the mat again, but this time the dynamics had shifted. She wasn't just a student anymore, she was his potential mate. His wolf saw her that way. His human side was rapidly catching up to that reality, and it changed everything about how they moved together. "Show me what you've learned," he commanded, circling her on the mat. "Attack me like you mean it, like I'm cross, like your life depends on it." Sera lunged, her movements more fluid now after days of practice. Marcus blocked easily, but she'd anticipated that, using his counter to spin into a different angle. Her elbow came up toward his ribs. He caught it, but had to shift his weight. She used that shift to hook his leg, trying to take him down. "Better," he approved, even as he reversed her attempt and ended up with her pinned beneath him again. "But you're still thinking too much. Fighting isn't about thought. It's about instinct, about reading your opponent's body, about anticipating." His body covered hers completely, one hand pinning both her wrists above her head, his hips settling between her thighs in a position that was tactical, but also undeniably intimate. She could feel every inch of him, could feel the evidence of his arousal pressing against her, even through their training clothes. "Your body is broadcasting everything right now," he said, his voice dropping to that rough register that made her shiver. Elevated heart rate, dilated pupils, accelerated breathing. Those are fear responses, but they're also arousal responses. The body doesn't always differentiate between the two. Both make you hyper-aware, both flood you with adrenaline. His free hand traced down her arm, over her collarbone, resting at the base of her throat. Not threatening, claiming. "What are you feeling right now, Sera? Fear or something else?" "Something else," she whispered. Her wolf was practically purring, completely unconcerned about being pinned by a dominant male. In fact, her wolf liked it, wanted more of it. His eyes flashed silver. His wolf was very close to the surface. "Say it. Want. I'm feeling want." "Good." He leaned down, his mouth hovering just above hers, close enough that she could feel his breath, close enough that she could taste the promise of him. Want keeps you alive. Fear makes you freeze. But want, desire, the drive to claim or be claimed, that makes you dangerous, that makes you fight harder, that makes you unstoppable. He released her wrists, but didn't move off her, just looked down at her with an intensity that stole her breath. "When this is over, when we've eliminated the threat, I'm going to have you exactly like this. But it won't be on a training mat. It'll be in my bed. And I won't be teaching you to fight. I'll be showing you exactly what it means to be claimed by an alpha king. Every inch of you will be mine, every breath, every moan, Every moment. Do you understand? Sera couldn't speak, could only nod. But until then, he continued, pushing himself up and off her with obvious reluctance, we train, because I won't lose you to Cross, won't lose you to anyone. You're too important. He offered his hand. She took it. Let him pull her to her feet and immediately back into training mode. But the promise hung in the air between them, the knowledge of what was coming, the inevitability of their bond. Day 8, weapons training, close quarters combat with firearms. Rachel was running the session, but Marcus was observing, arms crossed, watching Sera move through the shoot house with critical eyes. She'd gotten good, fast. Her shot placement was consistent. Her tactical movement was improving. She was becoming a real operator. But every time she passed Marcus's observation point, she felt his eyes on her, felt his attention like a physical caress, and it affected her performance, made her hyper-aware of her body, of how she moved, of whether he approved. After the third run, where she missed a target because she was too busy being aware of his gaze, Rachel called a halt. Alpha, she said dryly, you're distracting my student. Either come in and train with her or go away. Marcus pushed off the wall he'd been leaning against. I'll train with her. He entered the shoot house, took up a position as her partner. Now they were clearing rooms together, moving in sync, covering each other's sectors, and the dynamic shifted entirely. Marcus moved like violence incarnate, every step deliberate, every shot placed perfectly. He was a predator in his element. And Sera found herself moving in response to him instinctively, matching his rhythm, anticipating his movements. They flowed together like they'd been partners for years instead of days. In one room, they breached simultaneously from opposite doors. Sera cleared her sector, spun to cover Marcus's back, and found herself pressed against him as he backed up to check a corner. His body was solid heat against her spine. His scent surrounded her. For a moment, neither of them moved, just stood there, backs together, breathing in sync. Good teamwork, he murmured. You're learning to trust me to cover you. I do trust you, she said quietly, with my life. His hand found hers in the darkness, squeezed once, and I'll never betray that trust. They cleared the rest of the house with perfect coordination. When they emerged, Rachel was shaking her head with a knowing smile. That's what happens when you train with your mate, she said to no one in particular. Combat becomes a dance. Day 9, pack integration training. Marcus called a pack meeting, all 40 operators present. This was the first time Sera would stand before them as more than just a new recruit. This was her introduction as someone under alpha protection, someone important to their leader. Marcus stood at the front of the assembled pack, Sera at his right side. His hand rested on her lower back, a possessive gesture that every wolf in the room understood. She's mine. She's under my protection. She's important to me. This is Sera Merrick, Marcus announced, his alpha voice carrying easily across the space. Call sign Reaper 6. She's a member of this pack with specialized intelligence capabilities. She's also under my personal protection, which means if anyone has a problem with her, they have a problem with me. If anyone disrespects her, they disrespect me. If anyone threatens her, they die. Is that clear? Is that? A chorus of affirmatives echoed back. Every wolf in the room could smell Marcus's claim on Sera, could see the way he positioned himself, could understand what she was becoming to him. One wolf, younger, maybe mid-20s, raised his hand. Alpha, is she? Are you claiming her as mate? The room went silent. Every eye turned to Marcus. This was the question they all wanted answered, but none had dared ask. Marcus's hand tightened slightly on Sera's back. Not yet, but yes, she's my intended mate. When the time is right, when she's ready, I will complete the claiming. Until then, she's under the same protection any alpha's intended mate receives, which is absolute. He looked around the room, meeting eyes, asserting dominance. Any questions? No one spoke. The message was clear. Sera was untouchable. She was the future Alpha Queen, and anyone who forgot that would answer to Marcus personally. After the meeting, several pack members approached Sera, introduced themselves properly, offered assistance if she needed anything. The dynamic had shifted. She wasn't just a new recruit anymore. She was pack royalty, the Alpha King's chosen. Rachel pulled her aside later that evening. You handled that well, didn't show fear, didn't hide behind Alpha, just stood there and owned your position. That's important. A weak mate makes the Alpha look weak. A strong mate makes the Alpha stronger. You're making him stronger just by being yourself. I don't feel strong, Sera admitted. I feel terrified half the time. That's called being smart. But you act anyway. That's called being brave. Alpha sees that, values it. It's why his wolf chose you. Day 10. The nightmare. Sera woke screaming, Alexei's death playing in her mind on repeat. The poison, the heart stopping, the final moment of cessation. She'd thought she was handling it, thought the mark was manageable. But in sleep, her defenses were down. The ghost signature pulled at her consciousness relentlessly. She was still screaming when her door burst open. Marcus stormed in, shirtless, wearing only sleep pants, looking like he'd run the entire length of the compound. His eyes were wild with worry. "Sera!" He was at her bedside in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. "You're safe. You're here. You're not there. You're with me." His scent, his warmth, his presence, it cut through the nightmare, anchored her back to reality. She clung to him, her face pressed against his bare chest, breathing him in like he was oxygen. "I can still feel him dying," she gasped. "Over and over. I can't make it stop." "I know," he murmured, his hand stroking her hair. "I know, baby. That's the cost of the Reaper gene. But you're not alone in carrying it. I'm here." He shifted, pulled her into his lap, cradled her like she was precious. His wolf was agitated, upset that his mate was distressed and he couldn't fix it with violence. "Stay," Sera whispered. "Please. I can't. I don't want to be alone with it." "I'm not going anywhere." He carried her to the small sofa in her quarters, settled with her in his lap. Her head rested against his shoulder, his arms wrapped around her completely. His presence was a shield against the nightmares that waited at the edges of consciousness. "Tell me about something good," she said quietly. "Something that doesn't involve death or combat or missions. Tell me who you were before all this." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he began to speak. Told her about growing up in Montana, about his mother who'd taught him to respect women, and his father who'd taught him to protect the weak. About joining the Marines at 18 because he wanted to serve something bigger than himself. About the brothers he'd made in service. About the places he'd seen and the things he'd done that he was proud of. And slowly, listening to his deep voice rumble through his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her ear, Sera's breathing evened out. The nightmare receded. Alexei's ghost signature faded to background noise. She fell asleep in his arms, safe, protected, cherished. Marcus held her through the night, didn't sleep himself, just guarded his mate from nightmares and threats and the darkness that tried to pull her under. And in the morning, when she woke still wrapped in his embrace, he kissed her forehead gently. "I've got you," he promised, always. Day 11, the final training session before the mission. Marcus took Sera into the forest surrounding the compound. Just the 2 of them. No pack, no observers. This was private, intimate. The Alpha King preparing his future mate for the most dangerous mission of her life. They shifted to wolf form and ran together, his massive black form leading, her smaller silver form keeping pace. When they reached a clearing deep in the territory, they shifted back. Marcus had brought clothes and supplies. He dressed her himself, his hands lingering on her skin. Every touch was claiming. Every brush of fingers was a promise. "Tonight we leave for the mission," he said, his hands on her shoulders, holding her gaze. "Tomorrow we face Cross. I need to know you're ready." "I'm ready." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "I need to know you understand what you mean to me, what you are to me. Your mate, your intended, your future." "Yes." He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her. "And that means if it comes down to a choice between the mission and keeping you safe, I choose you, every time, without hesitation." "Marcus, that's not. The mission is important. Thousands of lives." "I know." His voice was rough with emotion. "But you're mine, and I'm selfish enough that your life matters more to me than theirs. I won't sacrifice you for the mission. I can't. My wolf won't let me. My human side doesn't want to." Sera pulled back enough to look at his face, saw the truth there, the complete, unwavering certainty. "What if I won't let you? What if I choose to sacrifice myself if it means stopping Cross?" Pain flashed across his features. "Then I respect your choice and spend the rest of my life hating myself for allowing it. But I won't make that choice for you. You're not my possession. You're my partner, my equal. If you choose to sacrifice yourself, I can't stop you. I can only make damn sure I'm right there with you when it happens." "Together," Sera said softly. "We face it together." "Together," he agreed. He leaned down, pressed his forehead to hers. The intimacy of the gesture took her breath away. When we come back, when this is over, I'm claiming you completely. Mating bite, pack bond, everything. I'm done waiting, done being patient. I want you as mine in every way that matters. I want that too, she whispered. Good. Then let's make sure we both survive tomorrow. They stood in the clearing, holding each other, two warriors preparing for battle, two mates preparing to complete a bond that had been building since the moment they met. Two wolves recognizing that whatever came next, they would face it together. The mission brief was scheduled for that evening. The assault would begin at dawn. But for this moment, they had peace. They had each other. They had the promise of a future worth fighting for. Marcus kissed her then, not the desperate claiming kiss from the ridge. This was different. This was promise and hope and love given freely. This was a warrior acknowledging his mate. This was an alpha king bowing to his queen. Mine, he breathed against her lips. Ours, she corrected again. Yes, ours forever. That night, before the mission briefing, Marcus found Sera in the armory. She was checking her gear for the third time, nervous energy making her movements quick and jerky. He watched her for a moment from the doorway, committing the sight to memory. His mate, his warrior, his everything. You're going to wear out the straps if you keep adjusting them, he said quietly. Sera jumped, spun. Her hand had gone to her sidearm instinctively before she recognized him. Good reflexes. She was ready. I need to make sure everything's perfect, she said. I can't afford mistakes tomorrow. Marcus crossed to her, took the vest from her hands, set it aside. Then he pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her. For a moment, just let yourself be held. Let yourself be scared. Let yourself be human. Tomorrow you can be the warrior. Tonight, just be mine. Sera melted into him, her arms wrapping around his waist. This close, she could hear his heartbeat, strong, steady, constant, her anchor in every storm. I'm terrified, she admitted, not of dying, of failing, of letting you down, of not being strong enough when it matters. You could never let me down, Marcus said fiercely. You've exceeded every expectation I had, surpassed every goal. You're stronger than any wolf I've ever trained. And that's not just the Reaper gene. That's you, your spirit, your refusal to quit, your determination to matter. He pulled back enough to cup her face, make her look at him. I've led a lot of warriors into battle, good men and women, brave, skilled, competent. But I've never had a partner I trusted as much as I trust you. Never had someone I believed in as completely as I believe in you. You're going to be extraordinary tomorrow, and I'm going to be right there beside you every step. Promise me something, Sera said quietly. If it goes wrong, if Cross is about to capture me, don't let him take me alive. I've read the reports on what he does to Reapers, the experiments, the torture. I can't. I won't go through that. If it comes to it, if there's no other way, you end it quick. Promise me. Marcus's jaw tightened. His wolf snarled at the very idea. No. Marcus, please, I'm serious. I need to know. I promise I won't let him take you alive, Marcus said, his voice carrying absolute conviction. But not because I'll kill you, because I'll kill him first. I'll kill everyone between you and freedom. I'll burn down the entire mountain if that's what it takes. You're not dying tomorrow, neither am I. We're both coming home, together. And then I'm claiming you so thoroughly that every wolf in 100 miles will smell my mark on you. He kissed her then, hard and possessive, claiming her mouth like he'd claim her body soon. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. After this is over, he promised. After we've won. I'm taking you somewhere private, somewhere secure, somewhere no one can interrupt us. And I'm going to spend days showing you exactly what you mean to me, teaching your body to crave mine, making you scream my name until your voice gives out, marking you inside and out until there's no question who you belong to. Does that sound good? Sera could barely breathe. Yes, God, yes, that sounds perfect. Then let's make sure we both survive to do it. He released her reluctantly, stepped back. Get some rest. Mission brief at 2200. Wheels up at 0400. I want you sharp. Marcus. She caught his hand as he turned to leave. I love you. I need you to know that. Before we go into this, I love you. He froze, turned back slowly. His eyes were molten silver, blazing with emotion too big to contain. Say it again. I love you. I think I have since you walked into that warehouse and saw me when no one else did. Since you broke my chains and gave me back my wolf. Since you've protected me and trained me and looked at me like I'm precious. I love you. Marcus moved, fast. had her pressed against the wall, his body covering hers, his mouth on hers in a kiss that stole thought. When he pulled back, his voice was wrecked. "I've loved you since I caught your scent. Since my wolf recognized his mate. Since I watched you fight through the suppression breaking and come out stronger. You're mine, Sera. And I'm yours. Completely, irrevocably, forever." They stood there, wrapped in each other, hearts beating in sync. Two mates acknowledging what they'd both known but hadn't said. Two warriors facing death tomorrow, but choosing love tonight. Finally, reluctantly, Marcus released her. "Sleep. I'll see you at the brief." He left before he could change his mind. Before he could drag her to his quarters and claim her right now, mission be damned. His control was hanging by a thread, but she deserved better than a rushed claiming before battle. She deserved everything, and he'd give it to her. After they won, the mission briefing at 2200 hours was standing room only. Every operator who would be deploying, every support staff who would be providing overwatch. Elena Volkov and her team, Bishop with his intelligence analysis, Rachel with the tactical breakdown, Priest with the demolitions plan, and Marcus, standing at the front with Sera at his side, the Alpha King and his future queen, leading their pack into battle. The briefing was thorough, clinical, every detail covered, every contingency planned. By the time it ended 2 hours later, everyone knew their role. Everyone understood the stakes. As the room cleared, Marcus pulled Sera back. One last moment alone before the chaos. "Remember," he said quietly, "you stay with me, you mark cross, you extract. That's the plan. Nothing more, nothing less. And if the plan goes wrong, then we adapt. Together." His hand found hers, squeezed. "Whatever happens tomorrow, know that I'm proud of you, honored to fight beside you, grateful for every moment I've had with you. You've changed my life, Sera, made me remember what I'm fighting for. Not just duty, not just revenge, but a future worth building, a mate worth protecting, a love worth dying for." "Don't die for me," Sera said fiercely. "Live for me, come home with me, build that future with me." "Deal." He kissed her one final time. Soft, sweet, a promise. "I'll see you at 0400. Get some rest." Sera went to her quarters, tried to sleep, managed maybe 2 hours of fitful rest, plagued by dreams of what tomorrow might bring. When her alarm went off at 0330, she was already awake, already dressed, already ready. The compound was silent as she made her way to the motor pool. Other operators were loading gear, checking weapons, making final preparations. The helicopters sat dark and ready, death machines that would carry them into battle. Sera found Marcus by the lead helicopter. He was in full tactical gear, looking every inch the Alpha King warrior. When he saw her, something in his expression softened. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." He pulled her close one last time. "Regardless of what happens out there, remember this. You matter, you're valued, you're loved, and you're mine. Nothing Cross does or says changes that. Nothing diminishes what you are to me. Clear?" "Clear." "Good, then let's go hunt a monster." They boarded the helicopter as dawn broke over the mountains. The rotors spun up. The compound fell away below them. And Marcus Kade, Alpha King of the Kade Pack, held his mate's hand as they flew toward destiny. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Mates, warriors, equals. The mark led north. Sera could feel it with absolute clarity now after days of training and refinement. Cross wasn't just somewhere in the Adirondacks. He was specifically at coordinates that Bishop had triangulated to an abandoned Nike missile site from the Cold War. Former nuclear deterrent installation. Decommissioned in the 70s. Concrete bunkers built to withstand direct nuclear strikes. Underground tunnels connecting multiple defensive positions in a spider web of reinforced passages. High ground with clear fields of fire covering every approach vector. It was a fortress designed by military engineers who understood defensive warfare at the highest level. The operations center was controlled chaos in the final hours before deployment. Elena Volkov had arrived with her team 2 days ago, adding 12 elite operators to their assault force. Marcus had been skeptical at first, trust earned hard in their world, but Elena's grief over Alexei was genuine, raw. Her desire for revenge was honest and uncomplicated, and they needed the numbers for an assault on a fortified position defended by professionals. Sera stood near the main tactical display, dressed in full combat gear that had become second nature over the past 11 days. The vest fit perfectly now, after days of training in it, molded to her body. The weapons felt like extensions of her limbs after hundreds of hours on the range drilling muscle memory. The knife on her belt was positioned exactly where her hand expected it. She'd become operational in less than 2 weeks. Not perfect, not experienced, but functional, deadly when necessary. A warrior where there had been a ghost. Marcus approached from across the operations center, his presence announced by that now familiar scent that made her wolf immediately perk up with interest. Pine and smoke, and the deeper musk of alpha dominance. Her body responded instinctively, wanting his attention, wanting his approval, wanting him with a need that went beyond conscious thought. "You ready?" he asked quietly, his voice pitched low enough that only she could hear despite the activity around them. "No," Sera admitted honestly, "but I'm going anyway. Ready or not, Cross needs to be stopped." His eyes flashed with approval and something hotter that made her breath catch. "That's my girl, honest about fear but refusing to let it control you." He reached out, ostensibly to adjust the strap on her vest, even though it didn't need adjusting. Any excuse to touch her, to check her gear personally, to ensure she was as protected as humanly possible. "When we get in there, you stay with me at all times. You don't take unnecessary risks. You don't play hero. You mark Cross and you extract immediately to the rally point. Clear? What if you're in danger? What if you need help?" His hand moved from her vest to her face, cupping her jaw with that familiar possessive gentleness that made her knees weak. "Then you trust that I can handle myself. I've been doing this for 23 years. Survived deployments that killed better men. What I haven't been doing is protecting a mate. That changes my entire operational calculus. Every decision, every risk assessment. I will be more careful because you need me to come back to you. And you need to be more careful because I won't lose you before I even get to claim you properly." The word mate said out loud in this context made her heart stutter, made her wolf sing with joy, made her human half want to lean into him and never let go. "After this is over," she promised, her voice steady despite the emotion flooding her system. "When Cross is dealt with and the threat is neutralized, we'll have that conversation, complete that bond. I'm ready for it." "I'm holding you to that," Marcus said, his thumb brushing over her lips in a touch that was intimate and claiming. "You're mine, Sera. Even if you haven't accepted the bond fully yet, even if the claiming isn't complete, my wolf knows. Your wolf knows. When we're done here, when we've eliminated the threat, I'm going to make sure your human side knows it too. Going to claim you so thoroughly that there's no question, no doubt, no hesitation." The mission briefing at 2200 hours was standing room only. Every operator who would be deploying, every support staff who would be providing overwatch and logistics, Elena Volkov and her team, professional and focused. Bishop with his intelligence analysis displayed on multiple screens, Rachel with the tactical breakdown showing approach vectors and defensive positions, Priest with the demolitions plan for breaching reinforced structures, and Marcus, standing at the front with Sera at his side exactly where she belonged, the Alpha King and his future queen, leading their pack into battle against an enemy who had survived 2 centuries through superior tactics and ruthless efficiency. The briefing was thorough, clinical, every detail covered with military precision, every contingency planned for. Casualty estimates, extraction protocols, communications procedures, rules of engagement. By the time it ended 2 hours later, everyone knew their role. Everyone understood the stakes. Thousands of innocent lives depending on their success. 8 dead pack members demanding justice. And a 200-year-old monster who needed to be put down permanently. As the room cleared, operators heading to final gear checks and pre-combat rituals, Marcus pulled Sera back. One last moment alone before the chaos of deployment. "Remember," he said quietly, his hand on her shoulder, thumb stroking her neck. "You stay with me. You mark Cross when I give the signal. You extract immediately. That's the plan. Nothing more, nothing less. No heroics, no improvisation unless absolutely necessary. And if the plan goes wrong, if things go sideways, then we adapt. Together." His hand moved to cup her face, forcing her to meet his eyes, storm gray and intense. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I need you to know that I'm proud of you. Honored to fight beside you. Grateful for every moment I've had with you these past days. You've changed my life, Sera. Made me remember what I'm fighting for. Not just duty, Not just revenge for fallen pack members, but a future worth building, a mate worth protecting, a love worth dying for. "Don't die for me," Sera said fiercely, her hands coming up to grip his wrists. "Live for me. Come home with me. Build that future with me. Deal." He leaned down, pressed his forehead to hers in that gesture of intimacy that took her breath away every time. "I'll see you at 0400. Get some rest if you can." Sera went to her quarters, but sleep was impossible. Too much adrenaline, too much awareness of what was coming. She managed maybe 2 hours of fitful rest, plagued by dreams of what tomorrow might bring. Visions of Marcus wounded, of Cross capturing her, of everything going wrong in 100 different ways. When her alarm went off at 0330, she was already awake, already dressed in the base layers that went under tactical gear, already mentally preparing for what was coming. The compound was silent as she made her way to the motor pool in pre-dawn darkness. Other operators were loading gear with the quiet efficiency of professionals. Checking weapons one final time, making last-minute adjustments to equipment. The helicopters sat dark and ready on the tarmac. Blackhawks that would carry them into combat. Death machines that had seen 1,000 insertions and would see 1,000 more. Sera found Marcus by the lead helicopter. He was in full tactical gear, night vision goggles pushed up on his helmet, rifle slung across his chest, looking every inch the Alpha King warrior who had survived 2 decades of combat. When he saw her, something in his expression softened just slightly, the hard edges of the warrior making room for the protective mate. "Ready? As I'll ever be." He pulled her close despite the watching operators, despite the professional distance usually maintained before operations. One arm around her waist, the other hand cupping the back of her head, holding her against his chest where she could hear his heartbeat. Strong, steady, constant. "Regardless of what happens out there," he said quietly into her ear, "remember this. You matter. You're valued, you're loved, and you're mine. Nothing Cross does or says changes that. Nothing diminishes what you are to me. Clear?" "Clear," she whispered against his chest. "Good. Then let's go hunt a monster." They boarded the helicopter as dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. The rotors spun up with a building whine. The compound fell away below them as they climbed into morning sky. And Marcus Kade, Alpha King of the Kade Pack, held his mate's hand as they flew toward destiny. The flight took 40 minutes, low and fast over mountain terrain, using valleys to mask their approach from any early warning systems Cross might have deployed. No running lights, minimal radio chatter, professional military insertion that Marcus had executed countless times before. But this time was different. This time he had something to lose beyond his own life. He had a mate to protect, a future to fight for. Bishop's voice crackled through everyone's earpiece as they approached the target. "Drones are armed and on station. Target sensors marked. All teams report ready status." "North team ready," Rachel confirmed. "South team ready," Elena added, her Russian accent thicker under stress. "East team ready," Priest reported. "West team ready," Marcus said. "Execute phase 1 on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The night lit up like someone had switched on the sun. 6 drones simultaneously released precision-guided missiles, thermite warheads designed to burn through electronics and metal with temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees. The missile site's sensor arrays, communication dishes, and generator buildings erupted in white phosphorus fire. Secondary explosions followed as fuel tanks cooked off and ammunition stores detonated. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Cross's fortress went dark and blind, cut off from external communications, relying on internal power and emergency lighting. "Phase 2, Marcus ordered, his voice carrying command authority. "All teams insert now. Go, go, go." The helicopters flared hard, pilots demonstrating skill that came from combat experience. Fast rope deployment, operators sliding down thick braided lines with controlled descents. Sera went down with her team, Rachel's training keeping her stable despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Her boots hit rocky ground hard enough to jar her knees. The team formed up instantly, weapons oriented outward in overlapping sectors, moving toward their objective with practiced coordination. Sera's earpiece filled with controlled chaos, professional communication overlaid with the sounds of combat beginning. "Contact, North team engaging 2 hostiles on perimeter," Rachel's voice tight with focus. Team South breaching Building 2, flashbangs deployed, Elena called. Team East has contact, suppressing fire from elevated position, Priest reported. Marcus moved ahead of Sera, rifle up and scanning, his movements economical and deadly. She stayed at his 6 exactly as trained, watching their back trail, covering angles he couldn't see. Her role wasn't to lead the assault. Her role was to survive long enough to mark cross and guide the teams to the final objective. They reached the first surface building, a concrete structure that looked like it had weathered 50 years of mountain weather without maintenance. Priest placed breaching charges on the reinforced door, shaped explosives designed to blow inward without excessive fragmentation that might injure the assault team. Everyone stacked on the wall in tactical formation. Breaching in 3, 2, 1, Priest counted down. The door blew inward with a sharp crack that made Sera's ears ring even through hearing protection. Flashbangs followed immediately, tumbling into the smoke, detonating with strobing white light and ear-splitting bangs designed to disorient anyone inside. Then the team flowed through the breach, each operator slicing their sector, calling out clear or contact as they moved through the interior. Sera followed Marcus through, found herself in a hallway lit by red emergency lighting that cast everything in hellish shadows. Paper targets from her training had become real people, men with weapons who would kill her without hesitation if given the chance. "Contact front!" Marcus barked, firing 3 controlled shots. A man in tactical gear dropped, hit center mass, his weapon clattering to the concrete floor. "Keep moving, don't stop." They cleared 4 rooms in 90 seconds. Found communications equipment, weapon caches, evidence of recent occupation, but no bioweapon. Priest planted demolition charges as they moved, insurance against enemy reoccupation, time to detonate after they'd extracted. "Building 1 secure," Marcus reported over the radio, moving to Convergence Point Alpha. The team exited into the compound proper. Dawn had fully broken now, revealing the scope of the battlefield. Smoke from burning buildings drifted across the complex. Muzzle flashes lit corners where teams were engaged. The compound had transformed from Cold War relic into active war zone in a matter of minutes. "Team North has 2 wounded holding position." Rachel's voice carried stress now. "We need medical evac but can't extract until primary objective is secured." "Copy that," Marcus acknowledged. "Bishop, how long until we can get birds back in for casualty evacuation?" 8 minutes minimum, Bishop responded from his remote overwatch position. "Area is still too hot for safe approach." "Team South pushing to bunker entrance," Elena reported, taking heavy fire from crew-served weapons. "They were ready for us. This isn't random resistance, this is prepared defense." Sera felt Cross's mark pulling her forward with increased intensity. He was there, underground in the main bunker, waiting. She could feel his heartbeat now, elevated but controlled, could sense his satisfaction. This wasn't panic. This was a predator who had lured prey into a prepared killing ground. "Marcus," Sera said quietly, "Cross is pleased. He wanted us to come. This whole thing is a trap designed specifically to capture me." "I know," Marcus replied, never taking his eyes off their approach vector. "Been feeling that for the past hour. But we don't have a choice. We stop him here, or thousands die when he deploys the bioweapon, so we spring his trap and we beat him anyway." They reached the bunker entrance where the other teams were converging. Rachel's team had taken casualties, 2 operators with trauma injuries being stabilized by a combat medic. Elena's team was down to 10 from the original 12. Both losses from crew served weapon fire that had caught them in a prepared kill zone. The bunker door was reinforced steel, exactly like the ones Sera had seen in Cold War documentary footage, built to withstand nuclear blast waves. Priest examined it with professional assessment, running calculations in his head. "Going to need significant explosive yield," he muttered, placing charges in a specific pattern around the doorframe. "Everyone back at least 20 yards. This is going to be loud and create substantial overpressure." The team took cover behind available structures. Marcus pulled Sera down behind a concrete barrier, his body positioned between her and the blast zone, always protecting, always prioritizing her safety, even in the middle of chaos. Breaching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Priest's countdown ended with a massive detonation. The explosion was violent enough to create a shockwave Sera felt in her chest. The bunker door didn't just open. It was torn from its massive hinges and hurled inward, twisted metal shrieking. Smoke and dust obscured everything for several seconds. When it cleared, the entrance gaped open like a mouth leading into darkness. "Phase 3, Marcus said, his voice carrying over the ringing in everyone's ears. "We're going in. Priest on point, Rachel second. I'm third with Reaper 6. Elena, you're rear security. We move slow, we clear methodically, we don't get separated. This is where it gets dangerous." They descended into the bunker with red emergency lighting guiding their way. The air was stale, recycled through systems that probably hadn't been maintained in decades. Concrete corridors stretched ahead, multiple branch points and intersections creating a maze designed to confuse attackers and provide defensive advantages to the people who knew the layout. The first contact inside came fast and brutal. Wraith operatives had prepared fighting positions at a T intersection using portable barriers for cover. They opened fire as soon as the assault team came into view, automatic weapons fire filling the corridor with deadly projectiles. "Contact front!" Marcus returned fire, his rounds sparking off concrete and finding targets. The corridor became a shooting gallery, both sides firing from cover, trying to land killing shots while minimizing their own exposure. Sera fired as trained, short-controlled bursts aimed at center mass, suppressing hostiles who tried to flank. One of her shots connected, a man dropping and not getting back up. Her 6th combat kill. She'd lost count now, each one necessary, each one a life-or-death decision made in fractions of seconds. "Grenade out!" Someone on their team threw a fragmentation grenade. The explosive detonated behind enemy cover, the blast and shrapnel doing what bullets couldn't reach. When the smoke cleared, 3 hostiles were down. The corridor was momentarily clear. "Push forward before they reinforce," Marcus ordered. They moved quickly but carefully, clearing side rooms as they advanced, each doorway treated as potential ambush. They fought their way down 2 levels, the casualties mounting with each engagement. Priest took shrapnel from a grenade that detonated too close. Not fatal, but enough to slow him and leave blood trailing. One of Elena's operators went down with a gut shot, screaming, dying despite their combat medics' frantic efforts. They stayed with him until he stopped moving, closed his eyes, then kept advancing because stopping meant dying. 8 dead total now across all teams, maybe more. The radio traffic was chaotic, overlapping reports of casualties and contact, and calls for support that couldn't come until the objective was secured. "Second level clear," Rachel reported, her voice tight. "But we're running low on ammunition. 2 more engagements and we're down to sidearms." "Same here," Elena confirmed. "We need to end this soon or we're not getting out." "Understood," Marcus acknowledged. "Bishop, any intelligence on how many hostiles remain?" "Best estimate 15 to 20 still active," Bishop's voice came back. "But thermal imaging is unreliable through all that concrete. Could be more." They found Cross on the 3rd level down, exactly where Sera's mark indicated. The command center. A large room that must have once coordinated nuclear missile launches. Massive displays and control stations lining the walls. Most of the equipment was Cold War era, abandoned and non-functional. But there were modern additions, tactical displays showing the compound, communications equipment, maps marking operations across 3 continents, and standing in the center of it all, completely unbothered by the tactical team pointing weapons at him from multiple angles, was Colonel Nathaniel Cross. He was exactly as the intelligence files had described, 55 years old physically, but his eyes carried the accumulated weight of 2 centuries of warfare and ideology. Tall, even for an alpha werewolf, broad-shouldered despite his age, with silver hair and scars that told stories of conflicts most people had forgotten existed. He wore civilian clothes, dark jeans and a black sweater, no armor, no visible weapons. But he radiated danger like heat from a furnace, projected alpha dominance that made every wolf in the room want to submit instinctively. He was old in ways that made Marcus seem young, ancient in ways that spoke of survival through ruthless adaptation. "Marcus Kade," Cross said, his voice cultured and cold, carrying traces of a dozen countries and centuries of refinement, British aristocratic undertones mixed with American directness, right on schedule. "I've been expecting you. Thank you for bringing the Reaper directly to me. Saved me the trouble of extracting her from your compound. Your predictability makes my work so much easier." His eyes found Sera, and the weight of his attention was physically oppressive. Her wolf cowered despite her training, recognizing a predator beyond anything she'd encountered. This wasn't just an alpha. This was apex evolution. Death wearing a pleasant face and carrying 200 years of experience killing her kind. "The last Reaper," Cross mused, taking a casual step toward her. "Do you know what you are, child? You're a genetic aberration. An evolutionary mistake that should have been eliminated when your bloodline first manifested centuries ago. Reapers force empathy on those who should be free of such weaknesses. Make us feel what prey feels. That's not strength, that's contamination. A disease I've spent 200 years curing, and you're the last carrier. After I've studied you, after I've documented how your ability works on a cellular and genetic level, I'm going to kill you slowly while making your alpha watch, going to make him feel every second of your death through whatever bond you've formed, and then I'm going to kill him for daring to protect something that should have died out centuries ago. Marcus's growl was pure alpha rage, primal, violent. The sound vibrated through the confined space like rolling thunder, making every operator's wolf whine in submission to the sheer dominance pouring off him. You'll never touch her. I'll kill you where you stand right now. Will you? Cross asked pleasantly, his smile never wavering. Look around you, Kade. Examine your tactical situation with that professional military mind you're so proud of. You're standing in a nerve gas chamber, VX variant, aerosolized for maximum dispersal, lethal dose in 30 seconds, incapacitating in 10. I've already taken the antidote, synthesized from research I acquired from a collapsed Soviet bioweapons program. You haven't. There are vents above you, see them? Loaded and ready for deployment. I have a dead man's switch monitoring my cardiac rhythm. My heart stops for any reason. The gas deploys automatically. You shoot me, you kill yourself and everyone in this room, including your precious Reaper. So please, make your choice carefully. Bishop's voice crackled urgently through everyone's earpieces. Confirmed. Chemical weapons sensors showing active threat in that chamber. He's not bluffing, Alpha. This is real. Marcus didn't lower his weapon, didn't show fear, just calculated with that tactical mind that had kept him alive through 2 decades of combat. What do you want, Cross? I'll make you a trade. A reasonable offer between rational men. Give me the Reaper. Let me study her genetic structure. Understand how her ability functions before I eliminate it from the species permanently. In exchange, I let the rest of you walk away from this facility alive. The bioweapon threat disappears. Your pack survives to fight another day. Thousands of innocent civilians live because the UN attack doesn't happen. All it costs is one girl who was being sold for scrap last week, one defective runt who never should have existed. Think about it, Alpha. Basic cost-benefit analysis. Your entire pack's survival plus thousands of innocents for one worthless female. The math isn't complicated. Sera felt Marcus's refusal before he vocalized it. Felt it through the growing bond between them like a solid wall of absolute rejection. Not happening. His voice was flat. Final. You want her, you go through me. And I promise you, old man, I won't go down easy. Neither will my pack. We'll fight you until our last breath. Then everyone dies here, Cross said with a careless shrug, like he was discussing the weather. Such a waste. All these capable warriors, all this potential, all this life. Gone because you're too sentimental to make the hard tactical call. That's always been your weakness, Kade. You care about your pack. You form emotional attachments. You see people as more than expendable assets. It makes you weak. It makes you predictable. It's why you'll lose. Sera made her choice in that moment. The choice that had been building since Marcus walked into her father's warehouse and saw her when no one else did. Since he'd broken the magical suppression that had crippled her. Since he'd trained her and protected her and loved her with a fierce devotion she'd never imagined possible. She stepped forward, out from behind Marcus's protective bulk. His hand shot out instantly, trying to grab her, pull her back to safety, but she evaded with the combat agility he'd drilled into her over 11 days of intensive training. "Cross," she said, her voice steady despite the terror flooding her nervous system. "You want to study Reapers? Want to understand how the ability works on a molecular level? Let me demonstrate. Let me show you exactly what I can do before you capture me." "Sera, don't," Marcus warned, his voice carrying every ounce of alpha command he possessed. The weight of it should have driven her to her knees. "Get back behind me, now. That's an order." She ignored him. All her focus narrowed to Cross. She reached out with her Reaper sense, not to mark him because he was already marked from their tracking over the past week, but to pull, to connect deeper than marking, to weaponize empathy itself in ways no historical Reaper had attempted because they'd all been too afraid of what it might cost. What are you doing?" Cross's confidence wavered slightly. His smile faltered at the edges. "Making you understand what you've done," Sera said, her voice gaining strength. "Every Reaper you killed over 2 centuries. Every life you took in the name of your ideology. Every person you tortured for genetic research. I'm going to make you feel them. All 47, simultaneously. Every scream, every plea for mercy, every final thought, every moment of terror as they realized they were going to die, and nothing they did would stop it. You're going to experience what they experienced. You're going to die 47 deaths while your body keeps living, and you're going to understand exactly why your ideology is evil." She found the thread connecting her consciousness to Cross's and followed it down like diving into deep, cold water, into his memories, into the carefully maintained archive of kills he kept like academic records. 47 deaths cataloged with scientific precision, documented, studied, analyzed for patterns and weaknesses, but never felt, never experienced from the victim's perspective, never understood as anything but data points in a research project, until now. Sera pulled the first death forward from Cross's memory banks. Sera in 1824, begging for mercy as his hands closed around her throat. She made him feel Sera's terror, made him experience the sensation of his own hands crushing a windpipe, made him absorb the victim's desperate final thoughts about a daughter she'd never see grow up. Then the second. Thomas in 1837, trying to fight back against overwhelming superior strength. Cross had enjoyed that one, enjoyed the struggle and the resistance and the final breaking. Sera made him feel Thomas's hope turning to despair as his strength failed and death became inevitable. Then the third, fourth, fifth. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop now that she'd started. Elizabeth at 16, too young, too innocent, too unprepared for the monster who found her. Chen, bargaining frantically for his family's safety, even as Cross ignored the pleas with cold indifference. Katerina, fighting for 3 desperate hours before exhaustion claimed her and left her vulnerable. David, calling for his mother with his last breath while Cross took clinical notes. Maria, cursing Cross even as life left her body, dying with defiance instead of submission. Sera pulled all 47 deaths forward simultaneously and forced them into Cross's consciousness in a cascading avalanche of suffering. Made him feel every scream, every plea for mercy that went unanswered, every final thought of loved ones never to be seen again, every moment of terror as victims realized they were going to die and nothing they did would change that outcome. 2 centuries of systematic genocide compressed into seconds and downloaded directly into the mind of the man who'd inflicted it. Cross dropped to his knees, screaming, not from physical pain, but from psychological annihilation. His hands clutched at his head, as if he could physically remove the memories, the sensations, the overwhelming flood of forced empathy. 200 years of carefully constructed ideology was crumbling. 2 centuries of cold certainty was shattering under the weight of feeling what his victims had felt. But the effort was destroying Sera, too. The deaths weren't just flowing to Cross. They were flowing through her like a raging river, each one carrying pieces of her consciousness away. 47 sets of final moments, 47 dying fears and last regrets, all of it flooding her mind simultaneously. She was drowning in death, losing herself to the sheer volume of accumulated suffering. Her nose started bleeding, blood running down over her lips. Her vision blurred at the edges, the room losing focus. She could feel herself fragmenting, the Sera who existed as a discrete individual dissolving into 47 different death experiences. She was becoming them, losing her identity to their final moments. Marcus moved with the speed that came from decades of combat experience, dropped his weapon, and crossed the distance in a heartbeat, his arms wrapped around her from behind, anchoring her to reality, grounding her. His scent surrounded her completely, cutting through the death and fear. His presence became a lifeline thrown to someone drowning. "I've got you!" he growled directly into her ear, his voice cutting through the chaos flooding her mind. "You're not alone in this. Focus on me, on my heartbeat. You're not them, you're you. You're Sera. You're mine. Stay with me. Don't let go. I've got you and I'm not letting go. Ever." His alpha presence cut through the overwhelming flood like a lighthouse beam through storm clouds, gave her something real to hold on to, something solid and present. Sera kept the connection to Cross active, kept forcing him to experience every death with full emotional impact, but she didn't lose herself completely. Marcus was her anchor, her safe harbor in the storm, her mate pulling her back from the abyss. Finally, after what felt like hours, but was probably only 60 seconds, Sera released the connection, let it snap back like a rubber band stretched past breaking. Cross collapsed forward onto the concrete floor, still screaming, still broken, weeping for the first time in 200 years. Experiencing grief and horror and remorse that his psychopathic mind had never been capable of processing before. 2 centuries of emotional walls destroyed by forced empathy. Marcus didn't hesitate, didn't philosophize about the nature of justice, didn't offer mercy to a monster. He released Sera long enough to retrieve his sidearm with practiced efficiency. 1 shot, clean, professional, placed exactly where military training taught you to place kill shots. Cross's head snapped back. He fell forward, dead before he hit the floor. The 200-year-old monster who had hunted Reapers to extinction was eliminated not by greater violence, but by being forced to experience the empathy he'd spent his entire extended life avoiding. The dead man's switch activated immediately, exactly as Cross had promised. Vents hissed open above them. Yellow vapor began flooding the room, nerve gas deploying with lethal efficiency. "Move! Now!" Marcus shoved Sera toward the exit, his hand never leaving her back. The team ran, explosive egress back through the tunnels they'd cleared, retracing their path at a dead sprint. Behind them, automated blast doors dropped from the ceiling, sealing sections against the gas spread. Priest's demolition charges detonated on preset timers, collapsing access points, ensuring no one would recover Cross's research or his body. They made it to ground level with seconds to spare, burst out into morning sunlight that seemed impossibly bright after the darkness below, gasping clean mountain air into lungs that burned from exertion. Behind them, the bunker complex was burning, collapsing inward, burying Cross and his ideology and his 2 centuries of research under tons of rubble. Marcus didn't stop running until they were 200 yards clear, over the ridgeline to the primary rally point where extraction helicopters would meet them. Only then did he spin Sera around, his hands gripping her shoulders hard enough to bruise, shaking her slightly, his eyes wild with fear and fury and relief, all mixed together in an overwhelming cocktail. "Are you hurt? Did the gas touch you? Sera, look at me! Talk to me! Are you injured?" "I'm fine," she gasped, her voice raw from screaming she didn't remember doing. "We made it out. We're alive. Everyone's alive." "You could have died!" His voice broke completely, raw emotion pouring through every crack in his armor. "You walked right up to him, exposed yourself directly to the enemy, used your ability in a way that could have destroyed your mind permanently, shattered your consciousness beyond any hope of recovery. You could have died, and I couldn't stop it, couldn't protect you from the choice you made. I had to watch you risk everything, and there was nothing I could do to prevent it." "I had to," Sera said, her hands coming up to cup his face, feeling the tension in his jaw muscles, feeling the barely controlled emotion vibrating through him. It was the only way to stop him without everyone dying from nerve gas. "I made the choice. I accept the consequences. I'd do it again." Marcus grabbed her face with both hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. They were molten silver, barely human, his wolf so close to the surface that the boundary between man and beast had all but dissolved. "You're mine. Do you understand? Mine to protect, mine to keep safe, mine to love. You don't get to sacrifice yourself, not for the mission, not for the pack, not for anyone or anything. Because I can't. I won't lose you. Not after everything we've been through. Not after I've finally found you. You're my mate, and I claim you here and now." Then his mouth was on hers with bruising intensity. The kiss was claiming, desperate, possessive. All alpha dominance and mate need compressed into a single point of contact. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer. His body pressed her back against a tree trunk, surrounding her completely. His wolf surging forward to claim what was his in the most primal way possible, short of the mating bite itself. Sera surrendered to it completely, to him, opened for him and let him take what he needed. Let him reassure himself that she was alive, that she was whole, that she was his. The bond between them flared bright and hot, no longer just potential but actively forming, linking them at a level deeper than thought. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard, hearts pounding in sync. His eyes were pure wolf, silver and burning with intensity. Hers were glowing violet, reaper eyes. "Mine," he growled, the word barely human, coming from somewhere deep and primal. "Say it. Say you're mine." "Yours," she whispered. "Always yours. Forever yours. No one else's. Just yours." The claiming wasn't complete. Not here. Not in a combat zone with their pack depending on them and extraction helicopters inbound with their distinctive rotors already audible in the distance. But the bond had shifted fundamentally, locked into place, acknowledged and accepted on both sides, no longer tentative or questioning, solid, real, permanent. The extraction helicopters arrived 8 minutes later, Blackhawks coming in fast and low. They loaded the wounded first, operators with trauma injuries that needed immediate medical care, blood loss being controlled with pressure bandages and tourniquets. Then the body bags, 8 of them. 8 warriors who had entered this battle and would never leave. 8 pack members who died stopping something that could have killed thousands. Sera sat in the helicopter cargo bay, Marcus's arm around her shoulders, holding her close against his side. His scent covered her like a blanket, marking her as his. His presence was a shield against the chaos and the grief. Rachel caught her eye from across the bay, gave her a knowing smile despite the exhaustion and the blood spatter and the weight of loss. "About damn time," the second mouthed silently, her expression mixing approval with relief. Back at the compound, medical personnel cleared both Marcus and Sera after thorough examinations. Minor injuries, bruises that would fade, exhaustion that would pass with rest, blood loss from her nose that had already stopped. But nothing critical, nothing that wouldn't heal given time and proper care. The memorial service was held 2 days later after families had been notified and could travel to attend. 8 coffins draped in American flags, families crying openly, pack members standing at rigid attention in dress uniforms. Marcus delivered the eulogy personally, his voice carrying grief and pride in equal measure throughout the assembled crowd. He spoke about duty, about sacrifice, about the cost of standing against darkness, about how these 8 warriors had died protecting thousands of innocents who would never know their names or understand the threat that had been eliminated, about how their sacrifice mattered, about how they would be remembered. Sera stood at attention with the other operators, feeling the weight of what they'd accomplished and what it had cost. The bioweapon was destroyed, buried under tons of rubble. Wraith Syndicate was shattered, its leadership dead. The immediate threat was over. Cross was eliminated permanently. But 8 people were dead. 8 families were broken. 8 chairs would remain empty at dinner tables. 8 voices would never be heard again. That cost would never feel worth it no matter how many lives had been saved. After the ceremony, after the families had departed and the pack had dispersed to their own forms of grieving, Marcus found Sera in his office. She'd moved her belongings into quarters adjacent to his earlier that morning. They'd been dancing around the final step of their bond, but both knew it was inevitable now, had been since that kiss on the mountainside. "Bishop has your official contract," Marcus said, handing her a document. "Intelligence officer, Kade security contractors, full operational status with all rights and privileges, full pay and benefits, command authority over intelligence operations. And before you ask, yes, this is real. Yes, you earned every word of it through combat and competence. And yes, you're the most valuable asset this pack has ever had." Sera signed without hesitation, her name in black ink on white paper. Official, binding, real. "Good," Marcus said, taking the document and setting it aside carefully on his desk. "Now we can do this properly without any question of coercion or hierarchy." "Do what properly?" "Court you, show you what it means to be cherished by an alpha king, take you on actual dates like normal people, give you romance and flowers and moonlight and all the normal relationship things you deserve before I claim you completely as my mate, before I mark you as mine in every way possible." Sera laughed, the sound surprising her with its genuine amusement. "Marcus, we just fought through a bunker complex and killed a 200-year-old monster together. We've already confessed our love in the middle of combat. I don't need courtship or flowers or moonlight. I need you. I choose you. I'm ready for you to claim me fully, ready to be your mate, your queen, your partner in everything from this moment forward." Something hungry and possessive flashed in his eyes. His wolf surged to the surface, clearly visible in the silver of his gaze. "You're absolutely certain? Because once I claim you, once we complete the mate bond with the claiming bite, there's no going back ever. You'll be mine in every way that matters. Alpha's mate, queen of this pack, bound to me for life. The bond can't be broken. Are you absolutely certain that's what you want?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my entire life," Sera said with complete conviction. "I choose this. I choose you. I choose us. Whatever comes next, we face it together as mates." Marcus moved then with that incredible speed, crossed the distance between them in 2 powerful strides, lifted her off her feet effortlessly as if she weighed nothing, carried her through the connecting door between his office and his private quarters, the Alpha's sanctuary, his den, the place where he would claim his mate properly. He laid her on his bed with surprising gentleness for someone so powerful, someone capable of such violence. The bed was massive, built to accommodate an Alpha's size. The sheets were high quality, soft against her skin. The room smelled intensely of him, pine and smoke and wild mountain places. "Home. This is where you belong," he said, his voice dropping to that low rumble that vibrated through her bones and made her wolf sing. "In my bed, in my space, in my life, wearing my scent, carrying my mark, being mine in every way possible. Do you understand what I'm offering? What I'm asking? This is forever, Sera. Mate bonds don't break, don't fade, don't end. Once I claim you with the mating bite, we're bound for life, through good and bad, through easy and hard, through everything that comes. Forever." "I understand," she whispered, reaching up to cup his face. "And I want it, want you, want us, want forever with you." "Then let me show you exactly what that means." What followed was inevitable. 2 wolves finally completing the bond that had been forming since their first meeting in her father's warehouse. Marcus was dominant, but never rough, never cruel, possessive but always careful of her comfort. He claimed every inch of her skin with hands and mouth and teeth, worshipped her body while demanding her complete surrender, made her beg for him shamelessly, made her plead desperately, made her understand on a visceral level exactly what it meant to be claimed by an alpha king, to be treasured and protected and possessed all at once. When he finally entered her, when their bodies joined for the first time in the most intimate way possible, the partially formed bond between them flared like gasoline igniting. Suddenly she could feel his emotions as clearly as her own, his savage satisfaction, his possessive pride, his overwhelming love that had no words big enough to contain it. And he could feel hers flowing back to him, her absolute trust, her complete acceptance, her fierce devotion to this warrior who had saved her in every possible way, who had seen her when she was invisible and made her matter. He moved inside her with controlled power, each thrust deliberate and calculated, each angle designed to drive her higher toward climax. He made her come twice, her body shattering around him, before allowing himself release, made her scream his name until her voice broke and went hoarse, made her understand that her pleasure was his pleasure, that her satisfaction was his primary goal. When he finally sank his teeth into the junction of her neck and shoulder, the claiming bite that would mark her as his mate for the rest of their lives, Sera's world exploded in sensation beyond description. The bond snapped fully into place with almost physical force, going from partially formed to complete and permanent. No longer just potential, solid, real, unbreakable. "Marcus!" she gasped, her body arching under his as the bond completed. "Mine!" he growled against her marked flesh, his voice rough with overwhelming emotion. "My mate, my queen, my everything, forever mine." "Ours?" she corrected breathlessly, using his own correction back on him. "Yes," he agreed, his voice breaking slightly. "Ours, always ours, together forever." They collapsed together afterward, his body still covering hers protectively, still claiming even in the aftermath, still keeping her surrounded and safe. His mark on her neck would scar permanently, a visible sign to every wolf they encountered that she was claimed by an alpha king, protected, cherished, off limits. After, they lay tangled together in sheets that smelled like sex and satisfaction and the beginning of forever. His hand traced idle patterns on her skin, learning the landscape of her body. Her fingers explored the scars that mapped his history, each one a story of survival. "I love you," he murmured against her hair, the words coming easier now. "More than I thought I could love anyone, more than I knew was possible. You're my miracle, Sera, my impossible gift, the mate I never thought I'd find, and I will spend every single day of our lives making sure you never regret choosing me." "I could never regret you," she promised, meaning every word. "You gave me back myself, gave me strength I didn't know I had, gave me a place to belong and a purpose worth fighting for. You're everything I never knew I needed." They stayed sequestered in his quarters for 3 days straight, learning each other's bodies intimately, cementing the mate bond properly, existing in a bubble where nothing mattered except each other. Marcus called it a claiming heat, explained it was normal for newly mated pairs, the overwhelming need to touch constantly, to scent mark repeatedly, to be together every moment while the bond settled into permanence. The pack understood completely, left them alone except for absolutely necessary check-ins. Rachel took over operational command seamlessly. Bishop handled all intelligence operations. The compound functioned perfectly without its alpha for 72 hours, proving the strength of the pack structure he'd built. When they finally emerged on day 4, Sera wore Marcus's bite mark with visible pride, the scar tissue already forming in a distinctive pattern. She walked beside him as his equal, her bearing transformed, took her place as Alpha Queen with confidence earned through combat and choice and the completed mate bond. The formal pack meeting was called for that evening, all 40 remaining operators present in dress uniforms. Marcus stood at the front of the assembled wolves, Sera at his right hand exactly where she belonged, as his mate and co-leader. "Pack!" Marcus announced, his alpha voice carrying easily across the assembled group. "I present to you my mate, Sera Merrick, now Sera Kade by choice and by bond. She carries my claiming mark. She is Alpha Queen of this pack. She leads with me as equal partner, commands with me as co-alpha, protects this pack with me. Any who disrespect her, disrespect me directly. Any who threaten her, die by my hand. This is not negotiable. This is pack law from this moment forward. Is this understood by all present?" A chorus of affirmatives echoed back, voices unified. Every wolf present could see the fresh claiming mark on her neck, could smell Marcus's scent completely saturating her skin, could understand through instinct and tradition exactly what she was to him and therefore to the pack. Rachel was the first to approach, moving with military precision. She knelt formally before Sera, head bowed in submission. "Alpha Queen, I pledge my loyalty and my blade to your service, my life for yours if necessary, my strength to support you always." One by one, every pack member came forward, pledged loyalty formally, acknowledged her position without reservation, welcomed her not just as a member but as their queen, second in authority only to their alpha king. When the ceremony ended, Sera felt the full weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders like a physical burden. She wasn't just Marcus's mate anymore. She was leader of 40 warriors, responsible for their safety, their training, their lives in combat and in peace. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked quietly as the pack dispersed, his hand finding hers. Being Alpha Queen isn't just a title or honorific. It's a burden, a responsibility that never ends. Are you truly ready? With you beside me? Yes. Together we can handle anything that comes. That's what mates do. Together, he agreed, pulling her close. My queen, my partner, my everything. 6 months later, Bishop interrupted a routine morning briefing with urgent intelligence. His expression was grave as he pulled up reports on the main tactical display screen. "We have a developing situation. 3 Reapers just activated in Eastern Europe over the past 72 hours. Poland, Romania, and Ukraine. All experiencing sudden manifestation of abilities. Someone is using research recovered from Cross's organization before we destroyed it, deliberately triggering dormant genes through engineered trauma, planting activation events." Marcus studied the intelligence feeds carefully. Sera moved to stand beside him instinctively, her hand finding his. She wore practical clothes now, tactical pants and fitted shirts, boots always ready. The Alpha Queen dressed for war when necessary, not ceremony. "They'll go insane without proper guidance," she said immediately, her voice carrying command authority now. "Without training to control the abilities, without understanding what's happening to them. We need to find them quickly, help them, teach them. before they hurt themselves or others in their confusion. Or before someone else finds them first and weaponizes them, Marcus added grimly. If someone has Cross's research, they know exactly how valuable Reaper abilities are for intelligence and tracking. They'll try to capture these newly activated wolves, use them as assets. Sera looked at the activation sites marked on the map with red pins. Warsaw, Bucharest, Kiev. 3 scared people experiencing powers they didn't understand, probably terrified, definitely in danger from multiple directions. This is my fight, she said quietly but firmly. My gene, my bloodline, my responsibility. Someone's weaponizing my people. That makes it our responsibility to stop them and protect the victims. Marcus looked at his mate, saw the determination in her violet Reaper eyes, saw the queen she'd become over 6 months, competent, confident, capable of leading complex operations, his equal in every way that mattered. Then we go get them, he agreed without hesitation. Bring them home safely. Build something Cross tried to destroy forever. A pack of Reapers with proper training and support, led by the Alpha Queen who understands exactly what they're experiencing because she lived through it. He reached out, pulled her close, kissed her with the confidence of a male who knew his mate's mind completely, who trusted her judgment absolutely. Together? Together, Sera confirmed without hesitation. Always together. That's what we promised. They boarded the helicopter 2 hours later, gear loaded and team ready. Marcus at the controls handling piloting duties. Sera in the co-pilot seat, handling navigation and communications. Rachel and a hand-picked team of operators in back, ready for whatever situation they'd face. The compound fell away below them as they climbed into morning sky, heading toward new battles and new rescues. Sera looked at Marcus across the cockpit, saw the warrior who had saved her from her father's warehouse, the Alpha King who had broken her magical suppression and given her back her wolf, the mate who had chosen her when everyone else had dismissed her as worthless and defective. When this is over, she said over the helicopter's internal comms, we're taking that vacation you promised months ago, somewhere without missions or bioweapons or ancient monsters hunting us. Marcus smiled, that rare expression that transformed his hard features into something almost gentle. Deal. Somewhere quiet and remote, somewhere we can just exist without being Alpha and Queen for a while. Just Marcus and Sera. Just mates. Just us. Just us, she agreed, warmth flooding through the mate bond. Mates, partners, home. The helicopter banked east, carrying them toward new battles and new rescues and new challenges. Below them, the world turned in its endless rotation, oblivious to the wars fought in shadow to keep the light burning. Above, stars would guide their path when night fell. Sera touched the claiming mark on her neck, the permanent scar that marked her as Marcus's mate. Touched the mate bond that connected them at a level deeper than consciousness, deeper than thought, fundamental as heartbeat and breath. Touched the power that had transformed her from invisible ghost to warrior to queen. She had been told she was worthless her entire life, had been sold as collateral to clear a debt, had been marked for death by a 200-year-old monster who spent his entire extended life hunting her kind to extinction. And she had survived it all and more, transformed from invisible to unstoppable, from victim to victor, from alone to cherished, from nothing to everything. The hunt was on again, but this time she wasn't prey cowering in shadows. She was the hunter, powerful and capable, and she had an Alpha King at her side who would burn down the entire world to keep her safe. Together they were unstoppable. Together they were home. The end.